All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SCSL Season 4. We're here for round of 32 Group H, Rush, Backho, Killer, and Scan. Really looking forward to seeing Scan, my man, play. And we're going to be starting off with Rush versus Backho. Then we're going to get into Killer versus Scan. What are your predictions for today, Xun?
Well, Rush is one of the better Terrans in existence currently, so I imagine he's going to smack down Backho in a back alley and throw him down into that loser bracket, where I imagine he'll either face off against, definitely hard to say between Scan and Killer. I guess my money would be slightly more on Killer, as much as I would like to see my boy Scan go all the way through here. I would argue that, Killer, slightly higher execution-orientated player than Scan, and he's pretty adept in Zerg versus Terran and getting away with good build orders and what have you. I have seen him be able to take on some of the best Terrans in the world and seem pretty good while doing it. So it would be a bit of a tall order for him, although Scan has come a long way this year in improving his game, especially in these bigger tournaments. So maybe, just maybe, we'll see Scan joining Rush going through, and we'll have two Terrans going out. But I imagine there'll be a bit of an upset, and Killer might be knocking Scan down into losers at least.
Well, we're going to jump into our first game here, guys. Jumping right on into it. We're going to have Rush versus Backho starting this off. I'm really hoping that Scan can make it through. I think he has what it takes.
Oh, yeah.
He's been showing us some really strong play in this season of the ASL, so hopes are high right now. But first, we're going to watch Rush versus Backho here. Rush spawning in the bottom right-hand corner. Backho top right. What do you think about Backho? I haven't watched many of his games recently.
Right.
Have you seen any of them?
We casted that one game in KCM, right, where he was playing on Monty Hall. So we've seen a little bit of Backho, a teeny tiny bit, but not really a lot. I mean, he has played since like 2006. Like, he's been around for a very long time. He's just not been able to compete with a lot of these other Protoss players. He's had a few good seasons, I think, back in the day. I think there was some times where he was close to a 50% win rate in like the Pro League during like 2008, 2009. He's had some kind of okay results, but then he kind of just slipped through the fingers of the scene a little bit, and like always getting knocked out in like the round of 36 in the OSLs and stuff, like just never really performing that well at a competitive level. And StarCraft is such a brutal game. It happens to so many of these pro gamers. They're just not quite up to scratch and can make the grade.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it's so much easier to get to that like 90th percentile than it is to get that last 10% in the tank. Backho, a solid player, but just not quite at that level. Rush is absolutely at the top of his game right now. I'm expecting a smash, but maybe Backho can upset expectations here.
Well, he's gotten away with a Nexus first in vertical spawns right now. It's not quite cross spawns. Vertical spawns a little bit better than horizontal on Radeon here, but it's going to be a bunker expand from Rush, so even though he's going to take a little bit of an economic dent, it's not going to be too significant. Rush definitely doing one of the better builds to face off against this. He is technically still slightly behind the Protoss player, but not by a large margin.
No, this is a good spot for Rush, and as long as it's not a completely ridiculous advantage, I would say Rush still in a good spot. It's kind of like Soul Key, you know. It's a good thing to equate it to Soul Key, but for Soul Key it's versus everybody, right? If Soul Key's just a little bit behind anybody, you would say that he was even, but I would say Rush here, just being that tiny bit behind, he's still going to be very happy.
Yeah, and he's going to put on some pressure with this initial Marine coming right across the map. Wants to pull the probes off the line, bully them back a little bit. It does take a long time for that first unit to pop out of the gateway, so you can see how much lost mining time there is just from a single SCV scout that would have been there anyway, and a Marine and a bunker which he can cancel and get most of the money back for that. So this is kind of like a fake rush from Rush. Pun intended. We'll be able to deny so much mining value in that natural, like still not mining with probes in that natural, and pulled quite a lot of probes off. So already getting rid of that advantage from going for that Nexus first, and arguably even now slightly ahead in economy, maybe Rush.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't see probes at that natural. I think they're being pulled out now. This is a fantastic spot for Rush. He still hasn't had to build a bunker, but look at that. He gets a marine kill. That's something at least. Probe dies.
Yeah.
As a result, we should see a bunker here started soon. Rush is walking a fine line if he doesn't want to build a bunker right now.
Well, they do build really quickly, so as long as he starts it before the Dragoon is already en route to his base, it will finish in time, especially with these vertical spawns. But, you know, he's being a little bit greedy. You know, Terran players try and get away with making that bunker all the way to the last second these days, just to squeeze out an extra Marine or two or an extra SEV and maintain their production and, you know, getting as crisp of build order as possible. He's now going to finally get that bunker set up way ahead of schedule. It's going to be a robo follow-up here from Backho. We'll have to see if that's for just 2-gate obs or if he wants to do something risky and rush straight into Reaver and try and put the harass on.
Might be a good idea to take a little bit of a risk here, Backho. Definitely the underdog. Needs to get some good early damages, the best of one. So just taking one game off of Rush massively increases his likelihood of getting through to the next round. But so far, he's been a little bit outmaneuvered. Rush pushing away those early probes, kind of playing on the fears of Backho that he was going to get busted in his Nexus first and forced a lot of response. Back at home, he's just been macroing up and hitting this economy. Rush is going to be really scary coming up here. As he gets everything online. Backho is going to have to try something a little bit crazy if he wants to get into this game.
Yeah, I don't think he was even able to get much of a scout off on Rush as well. Like, the probe got batted back. I don't even think the Dragoon confirmed the minerals in the natural to see how long that expansion's been there for. So it's even possible that Backho doesn't have a really good read on the opening from Rush either and doesn't know his exact positions. It looks like it might be a DT drop into the main, interestingly enough. He's gone for Robo Obs into Citadel. It's very unlikely that's for a very fast leg enhancements in this current meta, so I have to imagine that's some kind of strange DT drop timing he's going for, potentially.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. Usually when you go for DT drop, you're going to have that Citadel started a lot sooner, but he starts it way after the Robo's done and observers are out, so...
Well, okay. It could be 2-base Arbiter.
All right.
It could be 2-base Arbiter, so that would actually make more sense because the DT drop would be a little bit too slow.
Yeah.
I just didn't expect him to go for a 2-base Arb on Radiant, but I mean, he can do that.
Looks like he is going to attempt to utilize that tech. Will it be for a quick recall or just stasis? This is a build that's gone out of fashion recently. It's rarely, if ever, used, and for good reason. Terran players have gotten very good at shutting it down, and if Rush is able to scout this, figure out exactly what's coming, you know what? He didn't go for an academy here. He went Armory plus eBay, so he might not be able to scout this early on, and he won't have many scans, that's for sure.
No, Armory eBay is like very defensive. I mean, we talked about it before. You basically have 3 tech choices, mainly as Terran, in terms of when you get your Armory, your Academy, and your Engineering Bay. And if you delay getting that Academy and scans up early on in the game, you don't have enough scans to both identify the timings of the Protoss and have enough scans banked up to be safe against the trickle of DTs and what have you. It seems like we might be seeing a little bit of a move out here from Rush. He's gone for 5 factories, so definitely has enough units to put on some pressure at least. Could just expand behind this push timing as well. Doesn't have to commit into killing Backho by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, 5 factories are a really solid counter to Reaver as well, but there's nothing to really slow him down. Like, he's had to wait for this 11 minute 30 stasis timing to be able to slow down the Terran's advance, and the Terran could attack a lot sooner than that. So I wonder if Backho can even just survive against this push.
Kind of like what Rush has done here. He's even gone for the Academy as well. So getting all of these different techs here at the same time, knowing that he had a good position and that he's just a better player. Nice shot there, killing off a couple of Dragoons before this engage ever happens. Backho going to be relying heavily on that Arbiter to help him to break this push. Needs to get kind of lucky here in that Rush runs out of scan or just misses a scan, something like that, so that the Arbiter can help with the cloaking field because it's not going to have any energy or that ability to throw down a stasis or anything. He's trying to delay things as a rush pushes across the map. Backho just needs a little bit more time here to even get this Arbiter on the field.
Yeah, you could trickle out a DT or two to force scans as well and burn through that energy even more just before the Arbiter pops out, making it very difficult for Rush to maintain pressure. Just like Rush understands that's a possibility, and he's going to start leapfrogging some turrets up here to help mitigate the fact that he hasn't gone for a fast academy and avoid having to make too many scans, as well as protect himself from any Zelt bombs that might be occurring on top of those siege tank lines. I mean, technically Backho should survive against this, but as long as Rush executes his attack flawlessly, I do think he could just eliminate Backho right off the get-go. It's one of the reasons why we don't see 2-base Arbiter anymore. It just doesn't have the same kind of potency it once did, especially with the meta shifting up and Terran's going for this higher factory count early on.
Yeah, he's just got a ton of tanks here. The turret setup is very nice. That's going to give him that initial detection before he even has to use the scan and leapfrog even further here. But Rush is going to hang back. He knows there's no third base, and he's happy to just keep rallying forward here and keep on adding on turrets, spread these tanks out, and make sure that the stasis can't get any really big value. Look at this. This is like a Zerg player containing Protoss on 2 or 3 bases, right? He's just sitting out here in the front, waiting for him to come out, and should be able to just bat down that attack. We'll see how Backho engages here, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, he can maybe get a few bombs on these tanks to the southern periphery. He's going to try and unsiege those and get them away. There's also some mines that he could potentially drag into those siege tanks. Doesn't quite find that kill. It's actually saving every single tank. That's kind of really nicely handled by Rush. Obviously, most Terran players at a lower level would be a little bit lazy about that and probably lose at least one tank to that attack. So the fact that he's keeping every precious tank alive and getting his tech online back at home, he's now got his starport finishing up. That'll allow him to transition into a 2-1 timing as well. He's not desperate to end the game. He's just putting a lot of pressure and leaning on his opponent while starting to grow himself, which is basically StarCraft 101. We got an Arbiter making its way downtown towards the southern hemisphere of the map, probably for a belated recall. I'm not sure if a recall is going to be a good idea, though, because, I mean, he just might be counterattacked and destroyed by Rush. And if there's any units back at home to defend against that recall, I think he might be eliminated here. There won't be enough units to stop Rush just going for a kill move, and Rush might be able to clean up the majority of that recall with just his rallied units.
Oh, he sees the Arbiter here over in the left-hand side of the map. And Rush is going to bring some Goliaths back. Bring some Vultures back as well. Start throwing down mines at home. He knows that this is available now. There's not enough energy yet for that recall. And he knows it's going to come in now. Look at all the mines that are getting thrown down in this main. Backho might just recall directly on top. Oh, he's just going to recall over into the middle of the map. That's interesting. Is he going to flank this army and just hit it from 2 sides?
Maybe. I mean, maybe. I mean, he could go for a counterattack as well into the natural, but that would be a bit risky, like I said, because he would just get counterattacked by Rush. So this actually makes more sense, going for a flank and avoid the minefield. Try and get on top of the Terran from behind. He will now be pincered, though, from the rallied Vultures coming from the south. He needs to act fast and targeting down the goons with the tanks manually, but he's a bit distracted and caught off guard by this, so he's not able to get his tanks firing on those Dragoons. So the Zealots are doing their job, soaking up a lot of those cannon shots, and isn't actually melting through the Protoss army too quickly here, although I have to wonder, is there not enough meat on the bone for Backho going forward? That's a pretty good stasis, but I just don't think there's enough to come down here and bust this. I mean, Rush has been allowed to macro up very powerfully on 2 bases, and Terran do outscale Protoss on equal bases the longer the game goes on. You kind of have to outmaneuver them. He has got a flood of Zealots ready to come down here. He's hoping that his massive stasis of Vultures may be good enough to deal with this Terran threat without too much screening those Zealots, but he's going to have to act fast to stop Rush crushing his third.
He's going to try and move forward here, get on top of these tanks. Oh, this Zealot rally making its way forward. Big target on that Dragoon. Kills a lot of probes as well. The whole probe transfer coming down. Oh, he's in the cloaking field here, and there's not enough scans. A lot of these tanks are getting killed. This is the luck I was talking about with Rush just not quite scanning in time. Some of these fights are starting to go a little bit more Backho-sided. Let's see if he can continue this momentum and start to shove everything back, or will Rush just be able to come in here? What the mine? Holy!
I don't think I even saw that mine. All of a sudden, there was just loads of vultures blowing up. That's kind of insane. I mean, a little bit of double sword action. There's a lot of people that complain about vultures being OP. That's why you see 75 in a lot of streams, because they cost 75 minerals. But the reality is they sometimes come back to haunt you and end up deleting your own units. So I don't think they're so OP because you can utilize them against the Terran player, much like irradiated Ultralisks can splash down bio units and help chomp through them quicker. Sometimes those Terran tech abilities sometimes work against them quite significantly, and we saw that there. Rush still has a little bit of units to leverage and try and apply pressure to his third, but it seems like Backho is more or less going to get this third somewhat undeterred, and we'll be mining now on a bit more of a traditional free base economy and still have a chance at fighting back Rush, but he's still got a bit of a task ahead of him.
Trying to slide those zealots in to get some mine connections. There's a lot of Terran units on top of mines once again. If he gets a recall on top of that with a bunch of zealots, it could be devastating, or just a shuttle getting in there might work as well. Has a few spells ready here, actually. 100 energy on this Arbiter. I think at least another 100 energy on these other two Arbiters as well. He might be able to throw down 3 stasis and possibly break this bush. Coming in from the back now, clearing out the mines. He's prepping this attack. Trying to slide some zealots in here, but it's not working with the science vessel there. Just can't quite get anything on top of those tanks. Another round of zealots makes its way forward. He is starting to hit that nexus now. The timer is on Backho. When is he going to pull this trigger?
Yeah, Backho slipping and sliding down those back alleys, trying to disrupt Rush and catch him unawares as much as possible. I mean, he might be able to make this work. He's got a lot of energy on these Arbiters. If he can move command through these mines and get some good splash, that'd be good as well. That's an okay stasis. That's another really good one. But he needs to make sure he can actually get onto these tanks in the back line. Sometimes stasis acts as a bit of a wall. It makes it harder for your Dragoons to get surface area. Nice D-Matrix as well on that periphery tank. You might just barely be able to hold on to here. It's kind of hard to say. The stasis units were kind of walling off the Protoss. It looks like he's just barely breaking through the tank lines with a few straggling Zealots and Dragoons starting to unite and get ready to clean up these ice cubes as they begin to melt. It's going to be a little bit of time before that occurs. Rush might be tempted to try and get some units up here quick from his natural thirds to fight against this. I think he might go for it now.
Yeah, bringing those units up here. There should be one more stasis actually available on the side of Backho. Just needs to throw it down. Is he going to utilize that? No. Lets all the rest of his units die. And now the probes are just completely wide open in this natural. Archons being made. Just Backho doesn't have enough stuff, man. He's falling behind in overall supply. I think he's slipped in overall macro, and Rush starts to pull ahead. Even though this was some good finesse shown by Backho, Rush overall just showing better fundamentals and knocking down this third base. All the probes here are gone.
He morphed some Archons, realizing that his storm will be a little bit late to try and get a little bit more punching power, that sonic shockwave helping out and not triggering mines. But the reality is it's just not enough to be sustainable against Rush. Both players now powering off quite a significant amount of bases. Backho just got his 4th base online, but he did lose a lot of probes, so they're pretty equal on economy, maybe arguably even Rush slightly ahead. And the trades are definitely going Rush favored. You can see the supplies now 30 ahead for Rush, and he's even killing more and more probes at this third. It's really brutal, and these ice cubes will thaw out, and he will be able to eventually crush Backho in this game, I have to imagine. It'd be really tough for Backho to make a comeback occur now.
Yeah, those are some next level stasis. What, 5 tanks in that one stasis? Ah, Vulture makes its way to 12 o'clock. That's so rough. Yeah, he's just getting pulled to and fro this way and that. And regardless of how many spells you have here, Rush is going to out multitask and out trade you in the long run. There it is, GG.
Yeah, Harry Potter just gets shot in the face regardless of his ability to throw down some spells. Turns out guns are better than magic wands, they're saying.
I guess so. We're going to be hopping into this next game, and guys, just give me a minute here, Xun. Let me know what you think about Killer and Scan.
I mean, that's going to be probably one of the most interesting matchups of the evening, I have to say. Killer, you know, he's kind of like a cheesy player in the sense that he goes for execution-orientated styles. a little bit of mind games thrown in. I have learned a lot from watching him play back in the day. I've been able to optimize a lot of build orders from studying him. He's not as cheesy as someone like Zealot is, but he is more or less aligned to the same kind of affinity of trying to squeeze as much juice out of the orange with as few drones as possible, set up some mind games and kind of obfuscate exactly what you're going for. And in Zerg versus Terran especially, he does seem to be able to figure out how to, get under the skin of the Terran player in both sussing out what he needs to do to, thwart the attack or timings of the Terran, and also still executing his build to the best of his ability. I don't think he's like one of the best Zergs in the world or anything. I think he'd probably be, somewhere in the top 10 region, but still very high execution orientated player. And I think he's going to give Scan a really hard time. As much as I do want Scan to win and go through today, Killer is going to give him a major run for his money.
I think you might be right on that. Killer has given us some great games in the past. He's really pushed these Terran players to their limits.
Yeah.
It's like I'm having a hard time getting this bracket together.
Well, just to also point out to these guys, you might be wondering who's Killer. I've been around in this for a long time, but I'm not quite sure who Killer is. Well, he did also go by the ID Baxter for quite some time back in the day, so you might be misremembering him because he used to go under the ID Baxter. So that name might ring a bell to you. Not necessarily the most potent of Zergs, to be said, but honestly can hold his own. And I think his Versatarian isn't necessarily like godlike or anything, but it should be good enough where he can give someone like Scan a really tough time of it. Scan, I mean, he's a pretty strong Terran player, and he has got a lot of success, but he hasn't really been challenged by a lot of these higher echelon pros. He's only recently started to get his play sorted out, being able to qualify for the ASL and things like that, to where maybe you could start to consider him trying to level up in terms of getting through to the next tier of players. But he's still got a lot of work cut out for him, and he still will have to be hungry for that tournament win if he wants to maintain trajectory and have a good chance against these guys.
Very interested to see what type of game we're going to see out of Killer as we hop on in. Match number 2. Killer versus Scan. We got Killer over in the top left, Scan in the top right. And yeah, kind of in the same vein as Zealot. That's where whenever I think of Killer, I also think of Zealot. What about you?
Yeah, he's definitely in the same ballpark. I probably would say he's not as dependent on those timings as someone like Zealot is, but he's certainly in that same vein of style. Just more focused on his execution, and happy to play with low economy if necessary, and likes to play with mind games and that kind of stuff. So I'm curious what he will go for here, especially on a big macro map like Radiant. You kind of have to get a bit creative if you want to go for something cheesy. The one thing going for him though is these horizontal spawns, so now something like a 2-hatch all in muta definitely viable despite usually longer rush distances. With this close proximity to the natural of Scan by that dead zone at 12 o'clock, like he could put a lot of pressure on early if he does want to go for something like a 2-hatch all in muta. It looks like he's going for a slightly economic opening, going to be a 12-hatch rather than something like 11 pool to optimize tech timing, so nothing too crazy yet from Killer.
Yeah, gonna get this 12-hatch going. And on Scan's side, I mean, no wall at the entrance thus far, just throwing down his supply depot right next to the CC that pushes the SCVs out to the right. Makes them rally to the minerals just that tiny bit faster, and also, of course, it allows you to build the supply depot super close so you can get that SCV back to mining. It does burn into your economy just a little bit, sending your SCV down to the bottom of the ramp in order to start these early buildings. And so Scan optimizing his economy. He's going to see that Overlord. Now he knows exactly where Killer's at and can just go over there to scout.
you know, knowing that he's against Killer, he probably was considering the possibility of like an early pull timing here and didn't want his wall in to be too easily punished, especially those Marines popping out on the outside. He's trying to obfuscate the exact timing of this CC here from the Overlord. The Overlord will spot that fairly early and know it's going to be a normal Rax FE. And Killer now, if he can somehow get this SCV out of his base pretty early with the first 4 Zerglings, he could go for something like a 2-hatch Lurker. It's just very rare to see that these days in the current meta. It's much more likely to be some kind of Spire-based play, even if it is something a bit on the cheesier side. We'll have to see whether or not Killer wants to just play macro game against Scan, knowing that Scan isn't the strongest of Terran players to worry about, and he could probably get away with just a normal straight-up game, or if he has got something a little bit spicy planned in the mid game.
Going to be setting up a supply depot here in the natural. Scan not making that wall, but he still wants a little bit of defensiveness against a player like Killer, who could pull the trigger on building a lot of lings here early. Got to be careful for that.
Yeah.
And so as Scan moves forward here with these naked lings, or naked Marines, excuse me, are we going to see a bunch of lings get made? You have so far 4 lings only. Can definitely fight this as Scan, especially if you catch him off guard. This could be really scary for Killer. Nice pullback there. Just checking the mini-map. No lings were lost as far as I can tell, and no gains made from either side.
Oh, he is going up to 8 Zerglings, though. I mean, this would be curious. If he got ling speed, he could put a lot of pressure on the Scan. If Scan, you know, bypasses the making a bunker, there's the ling speed. So, okay, now he builds the bunker. You have to build the bunker when you see this. This is going to be a little of a ling flood attempt here. Might be at least 10, maybe even more Zerglings rally behind this. He could wrap around those Marines, kill them, then run into the main base. You need about 12 plus Zerglings to actually have a chance at popping that bunker with a good surround. And if the SCVs pull off the line to repair right away, it's going to be hard. He's going to maybe send in a few lings on the left to try and bait the Marines to defend against that, and then run the rest into the main base potentially.
Yeah, let's see if you can get any reaction from Scans. Quite a wide area, even though there's the supply depot there kind of blocking things up a little bit. Still a lot of space there for the lings to try and run up. And so Scan needs to stay cautious here, keep inside this wall. Killer baiting him out, waiting for any sort of a push to come. This is a lot of investment from Killer for very little return so far. All of these lings could have been drones or could have been saved larva for a big Mutilus flood. There's the Scan going out. He's checking the natural. I see all of the mutas being made, and we'll just start to prepare right in time.
The most important thing is that you only saw 4 drones mining, which means there is some Zerglings out on the map. He knows now for sure that something's amiss, and that there probably is a decent sized force of Zerglings waiting to catch him off guard. Were he to go for that normal 5-ish minute push timing or something. So he's going to sit back and defend, take advantage of the fact that he's now economically ahead of Killer. The onus is now on Killer to make something happen and get some good trades with these bio units. And as long as Scan maintains formation and doesn't take too much SCV losses either in the natural, he's going to be in a comfortable position. Killer expanding in the natural in the bottom left so he can optimize getting a 4th gas easier the longer the game goes on. Could transition into something like a crazy Zerg here if he wants to.
7 mutas ready for dives here, and one-shotting these SCVs. Wants to get as many as he can without losing any of these mutas. Already he's taking quite a beating from those turrets. 3 able to hit every time these mutas slide in. So Killer ready for this attack to come out. He really wants Scan to push right now. He desperately wants him to come out so that he can surround and kill that bio force. As long as Scan just stands strong and doesn't push out right now, he should be in a great spot. Muta's trying to come in and hit this turret line. Lot of Marines here in the main base to deny that, and Killer getting a base started down in bottom left, but his drone count still not that good. A lot has been invested here to getting some damage going, and he's only gotten the bare minimum number of SCV kills so far.
Yeah, this is a 4x play from Scan, so he definitely has a significant bio count to push out onto the map with, but he needs to delay when he actually does that. You know, he kind of wants to play a little bit like Light and just sit back and mass up a lot more and wait till you've got an almost unstoppable bio ball to then bowl over the Zerg and make those Zerglings a completely wasted investment. He's still only got 3 drones mining in the natural here, so this is about as low economy as you can get. See that scanning coming down as well. Scan is constantly checking that natural, like his namesake, getting maximum value out of those scans and identifying, hang on a minute, you're not making any economy back at home. I just have to sit inside my base and power up and get my upgrades, and eventually I will outscale you. His factory is pretty late, but that's only because of how low economy the Zerg is. He knows the transition points are going to be relatively weak for Killer, given how few drones there are. So it's okay to make that factory like a minute behind schedule or so.
He's also seen the Hydralisk Den there in the natural. He knows what the timing on any possible lurkers is going to be. It's the main base here. Queen's Nest finishing up. If he got the scan in the main and didn't quite see where that scan went down, but then he would also know exactly when the hive is coming. Scan playing a great game so far and not falling for any of Killer's tricks. Here comes that huge bio ball that you're talking about. It's going to be very hard for him to take any sort of a fight with this. He needs to shave it down slowly before he can possibly engage with these lings.
Yeah, that's a great initial move, taking out one of the medics so that you can eventually just keep baiting stims, draining the reservoir of energy of that healing function, and then whittling them down with some good micro. It's exactly what Killer needs to do right now. Just be a Zerg barber and take a little bit off the top over and over again.
Getting some good hold position micro. Killer picking off a few Marines, but this is just such a big force, guys. This is going to be very difficult to stop. Tank follow-up from Scan. He knows what kind of pressure he can put on at this point. Knows that Killer's economy is not great, and he's struggling to get everything online, including his hive and his defilers. And so Scan can come in here with 2-3 tanks, start to put on a lot of pressure, and maybe open up a crack in the defenses where he can actually slip in. This is the toughest part of the game for the Zerg player, and so Scan gonna lean in on that and see if he can't put enough pressure on to get Killer to break.
Yeah, Killer's going to be pretty desperate to intercept the rally of the Terran player now. He can't afford to let anything else come onto the map. This fireball is already almost too big to handle, and it's going to be a Guardian play. I kind of understand this from Killer. He wants to utilize this dead zone space at the 12, which means the Guardians can act both defensively and offensively in this situation. And that might be a good ticket to shutting down this tank push from Scan. Guardians obviously have a really long attack range and will be able to stay outside of the bio force's potential. You managed to get a snipe on the tanks here. There's no bio protecting them. At least one of these tanks might go down for free, and it certainly does. Nice play there from Killer. Scan having a hard time controlling all of his units. Oh, please don't tell me he's going to lose the vessel. Okay, the vessel's no scourge to snipe that, so I think the vessel might be okay despite being a little bit out of position there. Has got these Zerglings waiting on the periphery as well for a potential surround or stab into the natural. He's kind of getting pincered by Scan though, so I think Scan actually might destroy this army and then go for a massive attack. And he certainly should be thinking about that. It takes a long time to actually get those muters morphed into Guardians in a good position. Has got some lurkers trying to slow this down, but with the vessel and tanks here, he's going to easily push Killer back, and I don't think Killer can hold on to this. And he's got his Defiler Man finish up, but it's going to take a long time for Consume and Defilers to pop out. He's going to try and force a few sieges to buy time. Beautiful Irradiate coming out onto those muters. Pretty good split off, but I don't think it's good enough. I think Scan's about to roll Killer over.
A few more lurkers pop out at the 11th hour here. He needs that Defiler with its energy, but it doesn't have the energy yet. Doesn't have the Consume upgrade. He could target that Defiler down, but doesn't need to. Just busting straight through the lurkers there. GG. Killer taps out, and Scan takes a solid win here in game number 2. Really well played by him.
I'm really impressed with Scan. He's just improved so much this last year or so. I don't know if it's just because of the ASL, but he has seemingly putting a lot more effort into his practice, and it's really starting to show. We saw a pretty darn good performance from him in the ASL, and now we're seeing a bit of a repeat of that in the SCSL as well. I'm really happy to see Scan playing at a higher caliber than usual. Does seem like he's trying to evolve and upgrade himself and get some better fighting potential against some of these other pros. He might be looking to secure himself in a higher tier spot. I think he's currently considered like a tier 3 player. But I mean, if he carries on at this rate, I mean, by next year comes around, he might be considered at least a tier 2 player, and maybe even able to get through into round of 16 in the ASL and what have you. It would be really nice to see him as a regular contender there. It is such a brutal tournament to qualify for, but I would love to see him as a regular.
Didn't Scan make it in to the round of 16 this season?
Yeah, I'm just saying I want to see him do that more often.
Yeah, become a regular there. That would be awesome.
Right.
Scan, the way he made it through to the round of 16 this season in ASL was from TVT, if I remember correctly, mainly. He had a very Terran heavy group. Yeah, I believe it was like Solkey and then all Terrans in this group, and he managed to make it through, if I'm remembering correctly. I might have that off. Maybe that was the round of 16 itself. But I think my perception of Scan's TVT, he's done a lot to improve it, and he might be able to give Rush a run for his money, guys. We're going to find out here in a moment. What do you think about the TVT of Scan so far?
The TVT, I mean, it's okay. I mean, I think what you're talking about is the Group A of round of 16, where he was up against Light and Barracks, and he kind of got a bit annihilated a little bit. I just think, the decision-making and understanding of the game by someone like Light and his protege Barracks is just going to be a little bit more superior to Scan overall. Unfortunately, I definitely think he has potential to overcome that deficit as the years tick by, but at the moment, I would say he's somewhere maybe 5th best TVT player in the world or something. He's pretty good for his caliber of play. Like, it's his most best matchup, and he certainly could start to break through to higher and higher positioning. But I think currently he will struggle to beat the absolute best TVT players still, despite it being his forte.
Right, I got that backwards. You're totally right. He made it through on TVZ and TVP in Group A this season. We're going to jump into this next game, guys. Sorry for the mix-up. Here we go. Scan versus Rush. Let's get it.
7시 유승권, 11시 유영진. 자, 태태전 성립이 됐고.
Here he is. Rush in the top left-hand corner. Scan
네, 화승 내전이네요.
down over
여러분들.
in the bottom left. This is arguably, top 2, top 3 Terran players in the world. It would be quite the achievement to take down Rush in a best of 3.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Rush is just one of the best Terran players currently there is. I mean, there's obviously players like Light that are slightly higher up than him. And you could argue that if Flash comes back, or maybe Flash is going to take that spot, I highly doubt it. It'll be a long time coming before Flash achieves any kind of Terran supremacy yet again. He might be facing some wrist issues and slight lack of motivation, because he's probably not going to be as hungry for those tournament wins as he once was, and maybe also now being more orientated towards being a streamer, probably more aligned to entertainment rather than playing absolutely out of his mind. So I also think that the recent Jinjin video showing him raging at 12 Nexus definitely seems more like what I'm talking about. Someone like Flash back in the day wouldn't even dare to complain about something like that, but it does seem like he's playing it up a little bit for his stream and trying to provide some entertainment rather than the best games possible.
Well, we could speculate all we want, but I'm really excited to see what he's actually capable of when he finally does come back to the scene. Nobody really knows for sure until we see it. The guy has historically been an absolute monster when it comes to just gobbling up tournaments and keeping his ambitions high. Ooh, Scan opening with a CC first.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, Rush is going for a bunker expand, so it's not going to be too far behind the curve, but also has no real way of punishing this. I mean, Scan is going to get away with a bit of a lead early on, it has to be said, and he's also going to be walling in as well behind this, making sure there's no potential of something like a 3-factory vulture or something bowling him over if Rush was going for a one base tech play. Wants to make sure he can prevent vultures becoming a runaway factor here, and instead will be able to wall off against that, set up a bunker, and be really safe against any pressure that could come out of Rush in the early game.
This is nice. And solid lead for Scan to start off with. Gases are at the same time, so it's just going to be a faster CC, more SCVs, and a bigger or quicker transfer. So this is a nice way for Scan to start. It's not as big of a lead as if Rush went for something a little bit more tech focused, but it's totally safe. He doesn't really need to build a bunker here initially early on. He will start the bunker just in case, as that SCV is driven back. He wants to make sure that there's not an early factor here and a vulture coming that can just punish him, but he could get away with even more grid right now considering the builds. He's just not going for that, being a little bit careful and keeping this lead intact.
Right, I mean, there's even arguments to be made that this is good that Rush is going for a bunker expand, because it means the range of play that can punish this is much smaller. They've both got gas at roughly the same time. As you can see, their gas is ticking up almost identically right now. So the Scan is just not having to really worry about any threat as long as he figures out that this is going to be a gasless expand from Rush. He doesn't know for sure exactly what Rush has gone for here, so he will be hedging his bets a little bit. That's why we see the early bunker and what have you. But he will figure out very soon that this is a very comfortable position. It looks like Scan is actually playing more tech-orientated. Only a single factory has gone down. We might be seeing... okay, he is going to make a second factory. I was a little bit confused there. I was like, hang on a minute, is he going to make starports now as soon as that factory finishes up? But it does seem like he gets that second factory, albeit very delayed. Maybe trying to throw Rush off with that scout and make him a bit confused about what would the follow-up be.
Triple factory out of Rush. This could be a vulture play, although there is that bunker in the front, and probably set up a wall behind this. Although now floating forward with the barracks, that's not what I was expecting. 3 Marines versus 3 Marines, the battle of the century. Let's see who's gonna take this one home. Okay, gets the first shot. Scan in an advantage, and he's gonna push those Marines away. Rush does back up smartly, keeping himself safe. Probably going to have vulture speed on the way, or mines here from Rush as he starts to pump out these vultures. Scan going to try to keep up with that, but it looks like he's actually added another factory. Did he go up to 4 factories in the main?
I mean, that's definitely possible. It's definitely a play to go for 4 factory vulture here. Certainly a build. Usually 2 players are locked into 3 factory vulture, and then you can either blink and transition out of it, or you can double down and go for 4 factory. The one thing that's really good for Rush here, though, is that he's going to get that barracks scout inside the main base and see exactly that and know what he's facing against. So you won't be surprised by this, but he will still have a little bit of an economic deficit to overcome. So Scan definitely has more fighting potential in this game because of the economic lead, but the scouting information is really crucial here from Rush to orientate himself appropriately. Rush's factories were a tiny bit quicker than Scan, so Scan might be defensive initially just to make use of that defender's advantage and the Rush time to get across the map. But eventually that 4th factory will start churning out a lot of vultures. He's even pumping out tanks actually from this. So he's kind of really heavily mind gaming Rush into thinking that he's going for his own vulture wars. But really there's actually going to be some tanks supporting this.
Yeah, I was a little confused there. Scan was behind in supply, even though he went for the CC first. But you can see that he was spending a lot more money. These tanks take longer and they cost more money. You can pump out a lot of supply of vultures very quickly. They're so cheap and they build very fast, but going for these tanks, it takes more time and the transition is a little bit harder. Now it's going to be quite easy for Scan to transition now that the tanks are out here. And we're not going to see a Vultures War situation at all. It's just going to be both players transitioning, I think.
I'm not so sure. I mean, it's possible that Rush will still, commit to making non-stop vultures here. He's got a lot of mines out to slow down the advance of these tanks. If Scan's not careful, we could eat a mine for free here. It will be a tank vulture push. There are a couple of tanks now made for Rush, but I don't think Siege will be ready for Rush, whereas I think Scan might have Siege already. He might be going for a very fast Siege up positioning, or at least getting that set up for when the tech finishes up in a few seconds here. And we'll start to utilize that floating barracks to put a lot of pressure onto Rush and start to contain him.
Wow, he's getting right up in this natural 3 tank to 3 tank. A lot of vultures here to support on either side, but the tanks of Scan actually targeting down the tanks of Rush pretty well. He's going to get rid of 2 tanks immediately. Still has 3. All 3 of his tanks still alive. Going to be backing up here. A lot of these are getting low. There we go. 1 tank does end up falling, and there's the mine connection. Big mine connection here on the retreat. A few more vultures come in, but this is definitely a Rush victory.
Yeah, he needs to lay down his own mines on the top of that tank, but I don't think it's going to be good enough. He has to pull back, and Rush going to be enjoying a pretty favorable trade. I mean, the game's not over by any stretch of the imagination. Scan does have the superior production right now. All those 4 factories churning away. It looks like Rush is going to be catching up to that production soon. I think he's building his own additional factories. Even a 5th factory now coming up from Scan. Is he going to start to make a starport now or a CC? Okay, CC. So he wants to eventually get that expansion up online, but still will be committing quite a lot of his resources into making non-stop units right now. Rush will be thinking about taking more of a center control of the map, and Scan will be orientated to deny that from occurring. That's why we see him focused on clearing out these mines as they're being set up and not allowing Rush to secure too much territory going forward.
1 battle there for Rush. Still going to be a long war here, though, as he begins to spread out towards that 3rd base. Looks like Rush wants to go ahead and take 12 o'clock, sending the SCV here already. Scan still staying up in his business and keeping these vultures active. Does have, I think, a bit of an advantage here in overall vulture number. With the tanks sieging up, though, will have to back away quickly. Gotta be careful with those vultures. If you get overwhelming numbers, you can just get that moving shot going, and the vultures will never escape. And so they will back away for now. Scan not moving to take a 3rd base here just yet. In fact, 3rd base hasn't been thrown down by Rush either. Just kind of building a turret up there or something like that. Rush just in preparation for that. Big spread here as this TVT moves towards a possible potential split map situation. We're going to keep on adding factories, and okay, there's the 2 3rd bases flying out. Both these players going to get them online at about the same time. Rush transferring a lot of workers here very quickly. Wants to get that 3rd gas operational as soon as possible to really benefit from this added factories that he's just put together.
Yeah, and both players getting up to 7 factories now. Rush actually a little bit ahead of schedule with those factory count. But Scan trying to make up that deficit by mining up the natural 3rd of Rush, as well as double expanding to 6 o'clock. Trying to leapfrog over Rush in this game with his small economic early game lead. It's going to be going up into science facility and what have you. Get that +2 as quickly as possible. It's one of the most important upgrades in Terran versus Terran is that +2 weapons attack upgrade, allowing you to 2-shot tanks instead of 3 with that arc light cannon in siege mode. Vultures become less and less potent as the game progresses. Scan refers to them as popcorn in this matchup. We've got a dropship heading down on the vertical axis on the left-hand side of the map. There's a turret going up, but it's not quite ready. So we could be seeing some big potential of harassment coming down now. There's a Wraith to intercept this, but not before it unloads vultures.
We'll get a few vultures here into the main base. That's going to force a lot of vultures to Scan to retreat, and Rush going to use that opportunity to move forward here, jumping on top of a lot of these tanks, potentially. Vultures here are just not in high enough number, and the tanks are going to come forward, start to siege up, taking out the tanks of Scan. Big connection on one of those mines there, and he's just going to wipe this out, start to take down this base here at 6 o'clock. But you know what? There's not much here to kill. Only 1 SCV, and he'll just float that command center away. This move from Rush was pretty strong, pretty good, but in the end, it's not going to make him too much progress. However, Rush is at a 26 supply lead, so really kind of out-macroing and outdoing Scan in the longer curve of the game. He's even going to come up and flank this army as Scan tries to push forward. Tank siege up from behind, and Rush gonna hit this from both sides. More and more tanks are falling here, and this is starting to become very Rush favored.
Yeah, Rush definitely the more tactical boxer of the two. Scan's still a heavy hitter with those haymakers, but unfortunately not able to slip the jab quite as Rush is able to do so. Instead of those 1-2 punch combinations, obfuscate his actual game plan by sending that dropship into down to the bottom left, forcing a reaction out of Scan. But really the plan was to roll down on the outside and get on top of the 6 o'clock, deny that, mine that up, and now encroaching on top of the rally point of Scan as well, really starting to drive a wedge in between the lanes to these expansions of Scan to see if we can get a shutdown on the third base as well. The container's successfully been set up by Rush, and he's putting Scan on a dangerous clock as he starts to knock out these SCVs. GG is called. First game going to Rush in this series. As much as I like Scan, I'm not so surprised. Rush is definitely outmaneuvering him.
Yeah, that was really well played by Rush. You could see that Scan was slipping a little bit. Sent every vulture, or maybe not every vulture, but he sent at least 12 back to deal with the 4 vultures that were dropped, and Rush takes full advantage of that moment. The spread was pretty thin on Scan. If he managed to keep his 4 bases alive, he would have had an enormous advantage, but Rush gets in there and tears him apart right before that can happen. Really well played by him. Guys, we're going to hop into our next game. Game number 2 now between Rush and Scan. Let's get into it. Here we go. Rush over here, center right. Scan, bottom left on Dominator. Our final group here, guys, Group H. Excited to move on to the round of 16. A lot of great players have advanced so far.
Now, this spawn slightly favors Scan because he'll be expanding away from Rush naturally, whereas Rush will be forced to kind of expand towards Scan if he wants to get his natural third online with shorter Rush distances. So there's a tiny advantage going towards Scan in the way of the spawning positions. It looks like both players going for a pretty traditional opening as well, in the sense of, you know, getting their geysers online. The gas slightly faster here from Rush, but not by much. Don't think it will make much of a factor in this game, especially with the defender's advantage coming into play. So probably pretty mirrored builds this time around, and no early economic advantage for Scan, although he did still fall by the wayside despite getting away with that little bit of a build order win, despite only being a slight advantage to work with. He's going to have to dig deep to beat someone like Rush, who probably has a much superior understanding on how to outmaneuver in this matchup, despite Scan having really solid TVT fundamentals overall. And it is his best matchup. I think someone like Rush is a teeny tiny bit more experienced and able to dispatch a player of Scan's caliber, unfortunately. But hopefully Scan can fight back here today.
Yeah, again, it would be a huge upset if Scan took out Rush here.
Right.
But we would love to see it. Both
Absolutely.
players getting their factories online. SCV Scout here from Rush. Getting to see everything that's going on, and Scan Scout's second, so he's not going to get quite as much information. That can be used against him. You see Rush already lifting off his barracks. He's made, what, only 2 Marines? And so he's really going to optimize here, whereas Scan might be baited into making, 3. No, he only made 2. Okay. Just the standard 2 Marines. And the SCV will be bullied back for now.
Now you can get away with 1 Marine, but it means you'll die to something like an 8-Rax or a BBS play, and they'll just overwhelm you, and you won't have enough time to set up a bunker on the ramp and that kind of thing. But 2 Marines is the standard. It allows you to have enough time and reaction to bully back any kind of proxy barrack shenanigans. You could obviously make more than 2 Marines and put on pressure. Usually you have to play very aggressive if you're making more than 2 Marines. It looks like both players comfortable just to sit back and then enjoy their defender's advantage for the time being, although the vultures are now starting to make their way onto the map, and whoever gets the first shot with these fragmentation grenades can be a big deal. It can snowball quite significantly if you can get damage to this first vulture. Scan is in a good position to catch that. He might not be able to get with this vulture now. Good micro. Scan might be able to kill this vulture. Rush reaching to the high ground right now. Pretty good connections with the grenades of Scan, though he should be able to kill this vulture, and he does get it.
Ooh, he gets the kill on that, and he's got the Marines following up to make sure that this vulture cannot trade the kill back. Wait a second. He's going to come in and try to get it. Pull the vulture. Oh, so close. He almost killed 2 vultures for nothing. But Rush does manage to trade 1 back. Still 1 vulture advantage for Scan for now. He would win if this was indeed going to be a vulture war between the two.
Right, I mean, Scan's still ahead. He's got 2 vultures for 1. Can he catch the other one? He's actually chasing the vulture. The observer needs to switch. He does get the chase micro. It's going to be huge. I think he just got a missed fragmentation grenade. So Scan is ahead right now. Just needs to catch it. Beautiful block from Scan. He does enjoy now a 3-to-1 vulture trade. And that's going to be putting him ahead in this game quite significantly. Rush might be feeling a little bit of pressure. I mean, for all he knows, there could be a lot of vultures coming his way. He's got the barracks floating into the main base. I think there's 3 factories coming online for Scan as well. So it could be that Vulture Wars style. And if it is going to be a Vulture Wars with a 2 vulture lead for Scan, that's a pretty big deal. Vultures really start to destroy you in higher counts. Like if you've got like 4 vultures to 3, you could start 2-shotting down his vultures and he can't do anything about it.
Scan builds a tank. So kind of abandoning the idea of a vulture war here. If you just keep building vultures nonstop, eventually you can keep on adding factories because vultures are so cheap. You're going to have a buildup of minerals and of course gas. So you can continue to add those on and just keep on powering out more and more vultures. But once you start building tanks, kind of messes up the economy. You're not going to be able to make as many factories. You're not going to be able to produce off of all that anyway. And Scan is going to try and just come in here with the advantage of 1 tank and probably about the same number of vultures. Let's see if he can bust in towards this natural rush in a defensive position with Marines mixed in. There's his tank as well. I doubt we'll see Scan be able to push in here.
Yeah, I think with the high ground advantage of this pizza slice, it's going to be a little bit too challenging for Scan to come in. He's trying to hide the tank. He's rotating it around. Might be trying to make something happen. He has got a vulture advantage. If he can get on top of this high ground and get his toe up on there before Rush responds to this, he actually might have a chance of pushing into it now. It's 2 tanks to 1, and he's got roughly the same amount of vultures right now with the defensive advantage coming in, but more vultures starting to rally across the map as well to try and make that lead more and more compounded. He's got the vision advantage with his own barracks here as well. Can poke in there and start putting damage right away onto that tank with his own 2 arc-light cannons. Pulls back his tank, does rush. Now starts to get a better concave with his vultures. Scan can definitely make this work with good micro.
Ooh, the siege up here gonna target that tank. Mines get thrown down. He's gotta target it. Oh my god, that mine. No target from Scan. He's gonna lose those tanks really quickly here. That was quite the investment from Scan to get those 2 tanks up to the front that early with siege mode as well, and that just gets completely shut down because of that 1 single mine. Brutal stuff here for Scan. He is falling kind of dangerously far behind now. You can see in the supplies and the momentum here. Rush is absolutely favored.
I mean, if Scan had just used 1 vulture to shift-click down those mines as they were being planted in the wake of his tanks, he probably would have smashed through that army of Rush. But that 1 single mine connection took both of those tanks to red HP, allowing the vultures to clean up so efficiently. Scan will try and take a fast third, utilizing his superior spawn position. It's harder for Rush to come and attack into this. We want to utilize the high ground to defend that much more efficiently than Rush would be able to. But I don't know if that's going to matter. I think after losing those 2 tanks more or less for free, might be a little bit sticky situation here for Scan going forward. He's going to have to dig deep and keep a forward line here, setting up these mines, utilizing these pizza slices with 1 or 2 tank spread, and try and slow down the advance of Rush and the ambitions of coming out for any push timing, and hope that this 3rd base gets online undeterred.
So we got a screenshot there. Maybe a misclick by our observer. Rush, you're trying to push. We're trying to hold the center of the board, but I don't know. Rush, I guess, gonna slowly start to expand along this bottom side. You know what? Maybe Scan can hold this. Maybe he can hold on to this area, but that play is gonna start to come into effect what you were talking about earlier. Rush expanding towards Scan And Scan could just sit back here and build his CCs in behind his already protected area. So let's see how this plays out, guys. This could be a longer game where we end up fighting for the top center, but Rush just seems very good at ending games like this.
Yeah, his mid-game overall control and maneuver-based warfare seems superior to some of these other Terrans. We'll have to see if that comes to fruition here. Scan trying to set up some control on those Northern Hemisphere lanes, understanding that that's going to be the point of contention and weakness as the mid-game starts to become fully online. I mean, Rush will be okay with his spawn locations for some time. He could also take that natural, the top right pocket instead of his natural fourth, and try and expand vertically as much as possible. It will spread him very thin and open himself to vulture counterattacks. Scan's desperately trying to hold onto his high ground right now. Rush is pushing the issue, though. He wants to take this pizza slice away from Scan, so we can put a lot of pressure on. His 4 tanks on the low cross, trying to take out these tanks. The mines are being laid in very adept fashion here, hopefully to break this one remaining siege tank. Looks like he will be able to get the execution on that. And now suddenly Rush has opened up a lane of attack along this horizontal axis, and Scan will be in a lot of trouble trying to hold on once this pizza slice is taken away from him.
Yeah, also getting over here towards this wall. The wall was added to prevent Terrans from freely hitting into that main base with their tanks, but once the barracks comes forward, that's going to become an option. I'm not sure, I'm not clear exactly on what happened with Scan's tanks. He only had like 3 tanks on the high ground, 2 tanks on the high ground there, whereas Rush is pushing up with like 6. It's crazy how the advantage.
On the low, but it wasn't in range. Yeah, he had one more that was just off screen that couldn't quite reach those units and help out much in those trades. So unfortunately, he was trying to hedge his bets and cover more of the center of the board with one of those tanks positioning. Kind of came back to haunt him a little bit. He's now going to be in a lot of trouble. His main base being under siege from some artillery shots. The one thing going for Scan is it will be hard to secure a 4th base for Rush. Like I said, if he takes the top right as his 4th, that'll be open to vulture raiding parties. A little bit of a drop in the main base for some vultures that will be shut down much more efficiently than they were in game number 1. Got some vultures still out on the map for Scan, sharking around. Sees that there's no 4th base yet taken, but it'll be 6 o'clock taken from Rush. Happy to expand all the way into the face of his opponent because he's enjoying some comfortable aggression. Look at this siege tank spot at the 6 o'clock, actually hitting the supply depots inside the main base. Really nice setup here from Rush, defending by attacking right now.
Oh wow, building 2 starports right now. I think that we're gonna see Rush just, oh gosh, he's actually just pushing right in. I thought he was gonna start to leverage his units up into the main base there with dropships, but he's actually shoving directly forward here into Scan's tank line. For now, he's going to stop, though. There were a couple of dropships that I saw earlier. Are we going to start to drop into this main and continue the tank push into the main base with the tank fire and cover on that high ground? It's possible he could just go for this. However, pretty soon, Scan is going to have a lot of Wraiths out here to really start to shut down that drop play.
Yeah, the Wraiths will be the saving grace of Scan if he can survive to that coming online. It's going to be another, minute and a half, 2 minutes. But here come the 2 dropships already starting to shove it down. Can Scan handle this? There's only a single mine here to defend against that. He might actually get a good connection. Does get 1 connection, a little bit of splash onto 1 tank. Not too big a deal. 3 tanks in siege mode inside the main base alongside a Goliath to help protect against the Wraith. Is pulling SCVs to try and deal with that, but it's not sufficient in clearing that up so cleanly. Scan in a little bit of desperation right now, trying to wrap around the north of this contain to open up the lanes yet again. He's starting to get some okay trades here, but I mean, it's not going to be enough. He's in a really big deficit of 45 supply. Now his supply depots are under threat yet again, and a big clock is on Scan right now. He has to utilize his Wraiths ahead of schedule, which means there'll be Valkyries being made, Goliaths being made from Rush, and I mean, be careful not to lose your Valkyrie though, Rush. I mean, if Scan shuts down this Valkyrie for free, eventually he will run away with the game with the Wraiths in the air, providing superior air support. and being able to put a timer on some of these tanks. I mean, 1 or 2 wraiths don't do that much damage, but once you've got like 5, 6, or 7 wraiths running around the map, you can really start to kill those siege tank lines. Rush needs to make sure he doesn't make any missteps going forward. He should be able to close out this game with good execution, but there is a teeny tiny chance of a comeback from Scan.
Scan going to continue to make these wraiths as Rush pushes over here towards the center left. One Goliath is going to be able to push away every single wraith here, and now on the low ground in range of these starports. Scan is looking just about out of this game. Drop on top of the tank here in the main. Rush is pulling him apart, man. The multitasking here is too much to handle.
It's really crazy. I mean, they're both playing at a similar level in terms of like APM and speed, but when it comes to the efficiency of their task switching ability and understanding what is needed to be done at every junction, there's just superior overall control from Rush. And despite having to expand towards his opponent, he's executed it flawlessly. He's had 4 bases churning away happily for some time. Scan tried to get his 4th base online, but he's been shut down in doing so. So definitely a superior understanding of the game state by Rush in this situation. And I don't think either player has +2 attack upgrades just yet, but it doesn't even look like it's going to be coming into effect this game. Neither player really needs that +2 weapons advantage to finish this. And even the mineral only coming up for Rush here, so we can keep churning out more and more vultures and Goliaths as he so chooses. Scan sharking around the map with a single scouting vulture on the northern hemisphere, but now he's going to realize the bad news that Rush never needed to expand up there. He was happy just to take this base at the 6 o'clock and just call it a day and get that mineral only for a bit of supplementation, and now we'll be losing his 4th base if he's not careful. It's on such low HP, and he's barely hanging on by a thread in this game.
Truly barely hanging on, and Rush is going to continue to move in towards the center left. He's actually going for the rally point now. Oh man, this is so many tanks and such a nice spread as well. Looks like this Valkyrie will get taken out pretty darn quick, but with enough Goliaths here in the army, Rush pushing everything back, gonna take that high ground, and GG is called. Scan taps out. A quick 2-0 victory for Rush. As he takes out Scan. Scan going to go down into that losers match. Or, excuse me, that finals match. We're going to have the losers match here coming up soon.
Yeah. It's going to be a deciding match. He's going to be waiting to see, is he going to be facing off against Killer yet again? Or will it be Backho? Those are the 2 players that will be facing off against one another coming up next, guys. It's going to be a PVZ. That'll be pretty interesting, actually. I mean, both of those players are lower echelon tier out of everyone, but I would say Killer slightly higher rung than Backho. I'm not sure how good the PVZ of Backho is going to be. I've not really seen enough of his games to say for sure. He has been able to beat good Zergs years and years and years ago, but I mean, that's a long time. I don't know how much he's practicing now. I don't know how seriously he's taking his pro career. The fact that he's actually in the SCSL, you'd have to imagine he is putting in quite a lot of effort and practice to staying relevant in the scene. It's so hard to maintain anywhere near close to a 50% win rate against these pro gamers. So it would be nice to see if he can go toe-to-toe with someone like Killer here, but my money's still going to be on Killer.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have to put your money on Killer. Definitely seems to be more devoted to the scene. Backho shows up every once in a while, but every once in a while is not good enough to make it into the round of 16 of the SCSL. Rush, the first player to advance here. So I'm feeling very good about going out first with no losses on his ticket. Scan going down to the finals match. Kind of expected, though. Whoever comes through is going to have a tough time making it through Scan. I think there's a pretty good chance that we'll see double Terrans make it through into this next round. Xun, we're just about ready to get started with this next game. Backho versus Killer. Let's jump right in. All right, Killer, top left. We got Backho down here in the bottom left. Back to Radion once again. Nice standard map, big map. Let's see what Backho wants to do here for this early game. He's going to be deciding what the tempo is initially, whether it's going for Gateway or Forge. Looks like a Forge expansion most likely out of Backho.
Yeah, I mean, this map is so big, I'm surprised people don't compare each other's mothers to it, saying, and make some of your mama jokes. It really is the biggest map we've got in the StarCraft scene. 38 seconds in terms of worker speed, ramp to ramp from the corner bases, because of how the ramps are orientated facing to the edge of the screen. You can see this ramp here where Killer's spawn is facing towards his natural, but towards the top of the screen, whereas on a map like Polestar it would be, you know, at the bottom of his base, so slightly more optimized for closer distances. But yeah, unfortunately this map just really huge unless you're in horizontal spawns. This time gonna be vertical, not too big, not too small, kind of like, you know, mother bear sort of distances here.
12 hatch out of Killer. And the double probe gonna make it over towards this natural. Is there a potential for cannon rush here, game number 1? Killer definitely seems to think so. He's got the drone in position already waiting for this. Gonna go ahead and fight the probe for now. Might have to make that geyser in order to keep the drone alive. Gonna run around the back here and definitely will start this cannon rush.
Yeah, that second probe showing up right on time to make this a little bit of a problem. Protoss players getting so adept at this early game micro. It's really difficult to get the drones over there. So far doing a good job of it. Gets one over, maybe, okay, not even doing that. It's really tricky to get the drones to slide over. And as you can see, a lot of particle beam shots come down on top of that. He's going to build a pylon to block and then cancel it and make a cannon, making it even harder for those drones to slide into position. And he might even lose that drone if he's not paying attention. Oh, he does lose the drone. Unfortunately, this cannon rush is already technically successful. Does manage to kill the probe behind there, but the other probe is still alive. He needs to stop this probe getting back into position to put down more cannons.
Bit of a mistake there from Killer. Could have just kept firing. I believe he had the tempo there to get the kill, preventing this probe from getting over into the corner. Just one cannon's not going to do it, guys. One cannon's not good enough. Killer should be able to shut this down, no problem. He can get a sunken colony up here. I'm not sure if the probes can actually slip back there, though. Looks like they're going to be heading across the map right now, and just started 2 cannons back at home. Are those going to be done in time? Killer might be able to get a lot of damage going.
I don't think those are done in time, Sam. I think he has to block this with some probes, or at least for a few seconds. I think the cannon's warping in just as the lings are starting to run by. So he has to block with like 5 probes here.
He is indeed going to get that block going. Nice pullback there on the first couple of probes. Really well done. He's going to manage to save that for now. Trying to come back here. Can he actually hit this cannon? He can't. Really should have built a sunken colony there. Really should have built a sunken colony. He cannot get back here.
I thought he was going to build a sunken while countering with some lings, and hey, he might lose this hatchery now. I mean, what are we watching? One single cannon is going to kill this hatchery. Killer showing a bit of a lack of understanding in how to deal with this type of variation of cannon rush, and he couldn't get his lings back there to defend it. Was really counting on a ling run by to make this work, and now he's paying the price. I mean, one single cannon is killing that hatchery. That is very unusual.
Yeah, that's very strange here. And I think it's pretty clear. I mean, Killer doesn't really have an excuse, right? This is not a crazy map. This is not a out there wild map that we're looking at right now. This is Radeon. Everybody plays hundreds and hundreds of games on this map. He's trying to chase down the probe right now. He's losing lings for that. Dude, Killer's tilted. You can tell.
Yeah, he's frustrated. He's going to transfer some drones over to this natural third and kind of stabilize his economy that way. He could go into a 2-hatch meter play from this. Like, he doesn't have to just GG out here. He could try and go for a fast Ogre gamer style, get a second gas eventually, and try and put the counter pressure on. Hope that Backho doesn't make enough cannons in his mineral lines and eventually enjoy taking away some of the economic prowess of the Protoss that way. The core's only just now finishing up, so definitely some strong potential for a for a Spire-based play. We'll have to see if he wants to pull the trigger on something like that, but he could technically still go for a two base layer into Spire and try and bowl over Backho, utilizing maybe a Parascourge or two try and screen those Corsairs that are going to be coming out.
스파이어
There's the Spire starting up now.
올라가고 있는데 뭐 테크 차이도 크게 안 나요.
Stargate nearly complete. We've got the +1 on the way as well. Zealots are going to start coming out here. Just forcing anything more from Killer right now is extremely painful. 3 Zealots walking up, for instance. That's going to force a bunch more Lings to be made, and Killer, he just sees it coming in now. He's got to send those Lings over to help deal with this. This is definitely going to be some lost mining time. And in the end, this is just money in the bank for Backho.
Yeah, I mean, Backho seems to be in pretty much a driver's seat position thanks to that one cannon paying dividends, and going to be a 4th Zealot also joining forces up here in this pocket. So if he trades off a lot of these Zerglings, this 4th Zealot might be a little bit of a nightmare because he still hasn't cleaned up these Zealots behind. Okay, he has got 4 of these Zerglings here. So I imagine he will shut down. Backho really just wants to get a scout in the main base. That's the main role of this Zealot, but it looks like it's going to be shut down. Instead, we'll just, chill over by this cannon and delay the 3rd base going down on location at the natural. Killer instead going to be relegated to taking his 3rd at the 12 o'clock position. Hasn't yet taken a 2nd gas, so I don't think he wants to play all in with 2 Muta. I think Backho was expecting that, that's why we got a 2nd Stargate on the way. But Killer will try and transition by taking that 12 o'clock.
Yeah, this is a really weird game for Killer. He is struggling here to play a normal game, but Backho scouting everything. He's going to see that 12 o'clock as well. He has full information as to what's going on. Zealots are going to come out now, finally. Did he get a drone? Oh my god, he got a drone as well. That's so frustrating.
Wow, man, Killer is having a little bit of a hard time of it. Usually he's the guy making you tilt and getting under your skin. This time, a little bit of role reversal from Backho. Understanding what he needs to do to make sure that doesn't become a bit of a reverse roles. Has 2 cannons in the main, a cannon in the natural. He knows that Killer is very good at coming in with Muta Scourge and sniping probes while the Scourge are ready to pounce on top of one of those Corsairs. He is actually one of the best Zergs at doing something like that. We saw him execute that very flawlessly in the ASL. He's a very micro-orientated player, but having a hard time execute his early game in this particular instance. So I imagine Backho might be able to run away with this game.
Oh yeah, I assume that Backho is gonna eventually find a way to close this out. With the 2 Stargate play, there's gonna be a little bit of a limitation in that he's gonna have very late storms. And he's not going to have many of them, especially if he continues to build those Corsairs. Here comes Killer, going to go ahead and finish off that cannon. Finally getting rid of that cannon, but he's got so many different locations to defend, and he just lost one of his few precious Mutilas to get rid of that. I mean, this is going to be a really hard push to stall out. Backho going to come out here with a really powerful army and a lot of Corsairs to start massacring these overlords soon.
I'm really shocked he didn't pull back the weakened Muta from that cannon. You do not need to commit all of your Mutas and lose one for free. Now he's going to have a lot of Zealots streaming into this natural 3rd location. Pretty good connections onto these Hydras. They were struggling to get into their Sim City pockets, and now the Zealots have a chance of completely raining down on these forces. There also going to be a counter-attack. Ling stab into the natural of Backho, though. These 2 cannons will go down in short order. There might be some counter-attack potential. If he gets on top of this cannon natural as well, the Corsairs have to get back in the defenders. DT is made as well to clean this up. As long as he doesn't lose too many probes, he's going to be fine. GG is called, and Backho takes an early lead in this series, kind of starting an upset trend here. If Killer doesn't dig deep and get his head together, we might be seeing a bit of a weird situation where Backho is going to be playing against Scan at this rate.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that game, guys. That was a rough one for Killer. Not realizing that he couldn't get back there with the Lings was his biggest mistake. Hard to come back from a situation like this, but good on Backho for getting that cannon in the back line and making that transition, keeping the pressure on Killer and not allowing him to just sit back and feel comfortable. We're going to jump into our next game, guys. Game number 2 between Backho and Killer on Dominator. Let's get it going.
여기가 완만 한 번도 당한 적이 없었어. 라는 말을 했어요.
Killer center right, Backho top left. In this next game, Backho in a lead. There is a pretty good spot to do cannon rush on this position as well, by the way, Xun. You can block a cannon in with just one pylon here. I'm sure Killer will be wary of that this time.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? I mean, if he falls for it twice, it's definitely going to be shame on him. Let's see if he does want to throw down that super early forge. Looks like he might, actually. The timing of this probe going out looks like that might be a very fast forge yet again. This is going to be a 9-gate. Okay, it's going to be a 9-gate. So very fast gateway first type build, and he's going to scout first with it as well to obfuscate. Luckily though, the Overlord will scout in the correct direction, identify this, so he won't be thrown off thinking this is still a forge first. So a little bit of luck here for Killer, being able to identify this gateway first and try and optimize against that. Looks like he went for a 9-pool gas trick here. So that's pretty lined up well for a gateway first as well. He could make it 6 Zerglings right off the bat and put some pressure on and force a skill check out of Backho to block his ramp with a probe and a zealot, while the other 2 zealots protect the pylon and gateway and try and stabilize the wall.
Yeah, that be a little bit tough to maneuver. Killer pretty strong with these early lings, but you can see he is a bit tilted. Especially that last game, kind of losing his cool. Hopefully he's taken a couple of breaths. Maybe he stood up, kind of shaking it out here before this next game started. Getting a bit of a block there, and he's going to throw it on the pylon as well. Very annoying stuff for Killer. He will be starting some lings now and getting rid of that pretty quickly, but this is still frustrating to say the least.
He's just going to ignore it. Like, he knows that if he tries to kill this pylon with the Zerglings, there's no timing to punish with a counterattack. Although he's now coming back. Killer, what are you doing? What? Okay. I think he's just shot himself in the foot by doing that, because now his counterattack is going to be even weaker, giving a few extra precious seconds to Backho to get set up. He does stop the block at the natural third. Pretty big deal killing that scouting probe, actually. But now he's lost a little bit of steam, because that third zealot will be popping out much more quicker relative to this pressure. Backho, though, needs to be careful not to let the run by get into the main base, and he's not going to have the zealot probe set up on the ramp to block that. So 3 lings making their way into the main base. We'll try and go for some really heavy task switching orientated play, but beautiful probe drill, actually catching 2 of those Zerglings, already shutting down this potential of damage from Killer. Maybe that tilt becoming a little bit too much of a problem for our Zerg player to handle. He's going to try another run by. One of those Zerglings getting caught yet again. Kind of unfortunate for Killer. He's not finding really any kind of compensation for these initial 6 Zerglings.
Yeah, this is going really poorly for Killer. He does get in that many. He gets 1 probe kill for 6 lings, guys. And even though Backho didn't do the standard correct play, in air quotations correct play, having 1 zealot, 1 probe on the ramp, and then waiting for that 3rd zealot to pop out, he still manages to deal with this without really losing anything, and now he's going to be able to start this pressure. Killer had a delayed natural with that pylon block, and so he doesn't have as much larva. He doesn't have his build on curve as well as he should. In fact, a little bit getting a bit supply blocked here. He's got 300 minerals in the bank, and he's just sitting here on 19 of 19. Can't really do anything with this money right now, and Backho is pressuring.
Yeah, I mean, he could go for a 4-hatch play and try and go for a pre-storm Hydra Burst, but I think he's not wanting to do that for whatever reason, so he's not going to try and optimize. Instead, just going to let those minerals ride and now start to spend them on making drones. I think he's going for a 4th hatchery, actually. Oh, he's not going for a 4th hatchery. There was just some lings blocked up. I was a bit confused there. Has got a lot of Zerglings being produced. Maybe hoping to try and take Backho by surprise, but I mean, Backho just scouted it with a probe, so the chances of this working are slim to none. And he's got, oh, there's actually a gap in those zealots, I think, so maybe the Zerglings can still slip in.
Now it looks like he fixes it. And there's going to be enough zealots here for Backho. The lings in the main base could come from the flank and try to hit the cannon, while the lings in the front try to take down this gateway, but doesn't look like that's going to be possible here. Killer, I know the feeling when you miss an Overlord and things are just going wrong everywhere. The natural inclination to just build all lings and just try to all in, but Backho did a really good move there by sending out his probe. Gets the scouting information, and look at this, lings everywhere, lings all over the place for Killer. Not a whole lot of drones is what I'm seeing right now. Backho in an awesome spot.
Yeah, this is like 973 saturation minus the 973. This is really problematic. You could go for a 976 and do a 4-hatch Hydra pre-storm timing bust. That's definitely a viable play, especially with how close the cannons are to this wall. Might be able to get something going for that. The problem is that this Corsair scout is going to identify absolutely everything in a very crisp fashion, so yeah, we might be seeing that eventuality still from Killer. Might be going for a Hydra bust a bit belatedly here, but I don't think it's going to be successful necessarily. As long as Backho identifies it, I think he'll be able to defend quite well.
Yeah, this feels a little bit doomed already. Killer is going to try for it, though. Bringing out some Hydras here. Just going to have enough to defend his Overlords from this initial Corsair and start to drive back these Zealots. Not a huge commitment here just yet, as we saw another round of drones coming out. Again, supply block. Killer having a really hard time making Overlords right now. Stuck on 44 of 44 and trying to build something. Can't really build anything, and he hasn't even lost an Overlord yet.
Yeah. I mean, the Corsair Scout is just too good. Now he knows to keep adding on cannons. Like 3 is safety. Now he knows he'll add on a 4th prematurely here. He knows that the Hydra bust pre-storm is probably going to still be committed to killing him. He does see a 5th hatchery placed. No second gas, though. So we probably will seeing Zerglings and Hydras streaming across the map, trying to finish the game early, and some good connections on those Hydras with those slow Zealots already as well, making this even harder to be successful. He is going to be able to keep these Zealots at bay, but now the 3 cannons have morphed in. It'll be very tough for Killer to make this attack still become successful. You can see the timing of the Templar Archive is a little bit behind schedule, so he has still got, like, you know, a good minute 20 here to bust Backho. But I don't think it's going to be successful. As long as he morphs in enough cannons at the right time. He needs like 1 more cannon, then another one. Going up to 6 cannons in just a minute here, and he should be fine.
There is a possibility that Backho doesn't realize that more Hydras are being made. Oh, going after the Corsair, or going after the Overlord. He's going to get it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the Overlord goes down, yeah. Very hard to make any sort of bust work now. And with the DT coming forward, it's almost impossible. Not clear on where we're at in terms of a layer. It's probably a long way off to get this Overlord speed, though.
If he had a second Overlord that was hidden off to the side, this might work in his favor because less cannons will be made, you know, committed to defending with a DT, and then he would surprise him with another slow Overlord, like coming onto screen at the last possible second. But in this situation where there's no Overlord speed on the way and they're all back at home in a, you know, a herd, there's not really any chance for Killer to make this work. Now, there's that single DT. He might get the kill on this Forge, but I mean, with the DT coming out, it's even saved him the cost of additional cannons. So I imagine Killer going to be in a little bit of a tough spot. He's going to have to play his heart out to make this work. A lot of gateways will start to come online to power up very heavily now. He will go up to 8 gateways, and you can either do a 2-base timing and try and bowl over Killer right away, or he could just take his 3rd.
Yeah, either one completely viable here. Will he target down the Corsair? No. Oh, Backho. Being a little sloppy here with his Zealots, lets everything run forward, and could be a little tough to take your 3rd base now. The DTs have been denied, and Killer has quite a bit of production online. Maybe he can shut down a 3rd if it comes to it.
I actually think sacrificing those Zealots now puts Killer back into the game. Like, I actually think that that's a really costly mistake from Backho. I don't understand why he was pressuring so much with such a few unit count. Has got a DT out on the map to slow down a 4th base timing. Overlord speed will be on the way by now, but it won't quite yet be finished for at least another 30 seconds or so. But eventually, Killer's going to take this 6 o'clock as his 4th and transition into a very standard game, and Backho will have the onus back on him, trying to, you know, stabilize the situation yet again. I mean, there's a Dark Archon coming out, but we might not even be having Mutalisk being made. He's going for 3 gas, but this could be for Lurker. You know, this doesn't necessarily have to be a Muta transition.
No, this could just be for Scourge, but I feel like after you kill all the Corsairs were thrown in over at the 3rd, by the way, and
Right.
most of them died, only 1 lives, so a transition into Mutas would be quite strong. It's just that Backho's very smart. He's already started that Dark Archon just in case there happens to be that transition. He doesn't want to keep making Corsairs. He needs to focus all of his attention on making Dragoons, Templar, so he is just going to get that one catch-all resource that can potentially just shut down a Mutalist transition. We'll see if Killer has that in mind, but as Backho starts to push out, this army is looking quite scared. That's a lot of Dragoons, a good number of Templar. Pure Hydra's not going to deal with this. Is it time for Lurker, or is it time for Mutas?
I mean, I would like Lurkers. I would like to fake Mutas into Lurkers and just play straight into Hive as soon as the 3rd comes online for Backho and obfuscate my game plan. I think that would make a lot of sense, and Lurkers are really good on these pizza slices as well. I mean, I don't necessarily think that will happen. I think that someone like Killer is definitely like favoring the Muta Hydra composition a lot. Doesn't have to go for it though. He's got a Hydra force actually waiting in counter attack mode to catch some of these rally units, but he needs to make sure he's got enough units. Okay, he has got a lot of units down here to defend. He will have to utilize Storm, but look at this wraparound of Hydras coming from behind, waiting to snipe these High Templars. As soon as these Dragoons commit to an attack, he's going to come in from behind and try and snipe these High Templars now. One of them goes down. Maelstrom comes on the force of Hydras to prevent too many of those High Templars from falling. He only sniped one of them. But we still got 2 Storms available to Backho, but there's so many Hydras on this high ground, so I don't think 2 Storms is going to be enough.
Yeah, Killer's done a great job of macroing through this difficult early game, and oh my god, the Storm on his own units! Hold on, Backho, big throw here, just throwing down Storms and killing off his own Templar, doing Killer's work for him. In fact, Killer's gonna nearly hold this with pure Hydra, and there's the Lurker transition, and so Backho gonna be driven away. Killer, with that 4th base online, can start to switch into that Hive now from a pretty powerful position.
I'm so blown away. Like, that must have been a misclick from Backho. A little moment of panic and suddenly killing his own High Templar there. A little bit of a unfortunate unaliving of himself going forward. Here come the Hydras from another counterattack. There's only some Zealots there. No High Templar to snipe, but this is very annoying to Backho because now he kind of needs to pull all of his forces back. He's even getting the probe transfer intercepted. Wow, that's crazy. He's not pulling the probes. Backho is in trouble suddenly. He's going to be able to get this force collapsed upon and force it out of dodge, but he lost some probes for free. And he's now pulled back his entire army from any kind of pressure on the Zerg. And I mean, this is a really commanding position for Killer now. He can just, you know, go straight into Hive as soon as he spots that 3rd. We got a shuttle over here as well. Maybe he could go for, you know, a drop into the main base with either some DTs, some Zealots, or High Templars to either cripple the economy of the Zerg, or maybe take out a critical tech building. I hope it's going to be either a DT or High Templar because he needs to kill drones right now.
Here comes 4 Zealots into the main base, so no DT, no High Templar. Gonna cause a bit of a ruckus though. Maybe target down some of these drones. This is some pretty good damage and really taking some of Killer's attention, seeing the Hive transition as well when that's coming up. Not bad for Backho. Small investment there to get that done. No Scourge available for Killer, even though he finished that Spire. Didn't even bother to make Scourge. It's kind of what that's for, right? You make that Spire so that you can deal with drops like that a little bit easier.
Well, in this case, it was just a, you know, mind game and make him think about a Muta transition whilst lining up for Lurkers like I thought it would be. So it's mainly just to, you know, make Backho, you know, worried about that potential of like suddenly Mutas coming out and sniping all his High Templars. Keeps him in mindful of that. Also going to be trying to pull Backho apart a little bit and trying to run around the side and get some of these High Templar snipes. Does manage to be successful in doing that. There's only like 3, I think, High Templars with this army now. Usually you've got 4 with your army, and okay, he's actually got a few more High Templars there. So it's 4 with his army. Hopefully he's got 2 back at home at least building. You want to go up to about 6 High Templars constantly, 4 of your army and 2 waiting back at home. Eventually you can even go up to 8 or so you can start doing some drop harass with those storms as well. We'll have enough to start skirmishing with the Zerg, but I mean, I like this play though. Like the DT Zealot in the main base could be really good because he's going to force Killer to respond to that while also having to deal with the skirmish at the front line. And there's quite a lot of storms here, so he's going to skirmish, throw out a lot of storms, and then potentially back up again to this high ground pizza slice and hope that Killer sends a few units to their deaths. Not necessarily in a commanding position is Backho, but he is starting to execute the maneuvers required to win the game. Target fire on that High Templar with the links, doesn't quite find it though.
Backho just going to trade that energy and back away. 4th base is up, but a counterattack's coming in for Killer. See if you can get in here, potentially shut down this base. Those... Oh, nice shot there on the Dark Archon. Manages to take that out. Does eat a pretty big storm, though. This counterattack force is not quite as potent. Bringing all the lurkers to the front. Killer very serious about wanting to push up onto this high ground. Running up that ramp versus this many Dragoons, though, that might be suicidal. So he's going to hold back for now. Killer just going to hold this pizza slice and maybe make some sort of a counterattack happen. Looks like he'll spot a Templar just wandering out on the map. Is he actually going to notice that or not? He's busy.
He's on a pilgrimage, saying.
Is watching something else right now. Here comes the counterattack of the forces going up and towards that 12 o'clock base. Can he actually get any damage going there? Will Backho have the necessary forces to deal with it? Storms coming out. Absolutely does have what it takes to deal with that attack. Shuts it down nice and easy. And now Backho actually looking into a pretty decent spot here. That's crazy how quickly this game is being thrown back and forth.
Yeah, that High Templar kind of like Gandalf facing off against the Balrog. I don't think he's going to have quite as much success, though. I don't know if that's a good idea. I think it's just a missed rally point of one of the gateways that hasn't yet been re-rallied elsewhere. Kind of funny. It's got a single Zealot there as well at the same rally point. Does lose that High Templar almost instantly. Doesn't even get the storm off. Yeah, I mean, the 4th base attempt from Backho is a nice play here, but I mean, Killer's going to start to expand towards his other main base and get more and more gas online and start to chain out Plague soon. We'll better use Dark Swarm to hold the line while getting all that critical tech online. So Backho has to start trading now and really put the pressure onto Killer to have any chance in this game. But I'm starting to feel like the macro engine of Killer might just be a little bit too much for him to break through.
There was some sort of a drop in the main base. I think Killer's economy has been messed with a little bit here. As Backho pushes in, there's an opportunity to get a big surround going. Killer wrapping around this army on all sides, but the storms are too many. This is too much splash damage. They will get pushed back once again, taking another base over in top right-hand corner. And Killer going to start expanding down into that other main base if he can. Backho going to continue to trade here from the high ground, just taking these little fights now and then. But they're going to start to get worse here as the Defilers make their way out. The Plagues can come online, and that's when the Zerg player can really start to trade efficiently.
I really like this maneuver-based warfare from Killer, though. Like, he's threatening the idea of counterattacks and wraparounds, but not actually committing to them. He's just forcing Backho to respond to the active threats without fully committing to them, and it's buying him so much time to get this consume finished and get all the tech necessary to get into the super late game phase here. He's got some units running onto the left-hand side. He should have dark. There's the Dark Swarm starting to come down on top of these lurkers. He needs, like, Zealots to break through this now. And there might not be enough Zealots to handle dealing with those subterranean spines ripping through, as well as the cracklings underneath the Dark Swarm. We'll be putting out a lot of DPS. I think it's actually a little bit more time until the adrenal glands are finished, but that should be coming up in just a few moments here. And the longer this game goes on, the worse it will become for Backho until he can get Reavers out at every single base and really take it the super long late game distance. Another attack from Killer, actually getting on top of the Milleroni with some swarms and lurkers, hydras and lings. That's actually going to be pretty successful in killing that Nexus, I think.
Might be able to just target down that Nexus. Cracklings are online for sure. Oh, a few Hydras here are going to come up to target that. And at the same time, Killer might be able to go into top right as well. There's just a ton of cannons over at that location. And so if he's able to just bring this Lurker up here, get a couple, or this Defiler, get a couple of Dark Swarms with these Lurkers, maybe he can break this base. Backho's starting to fall apart a little bit to all of these different counter attacks. He's going to go for one of his own down towards bottom left. Really does need to make something happen here soon. There's some storms coming out. Triple storm. He does have enough to kill the majority of the Lings, but it looks like the Lurkers are going to be pushing through. Plenty of probes here could go down as more Lings are sent forward. At the same time, Backho breaking down into bottom left. Can he hold on to this position? Killer just needs to hold on right now. That's all he needs to do. Keep sending Lings over here into the top right and keep himself alive. A great play comes out to start this. And more Lings are going to be sent forth just to try and keep himself alive. The Archons cannot hit that Lurker that's under Dark Swarm. He doesn't move forward here. A little bit too much going on right now. Killer could kill every single probe over at that base if he was going to pay attention, but he's just so focused on bottom left and keeping that alive.
Yeah, it's a real masterclass from Killer, showing some very exceptional understanding of the fundamentals of this matchup. Like, he's been feinting and like slipping jabs this entire time, just range finding Backho at every junction. And as soon as he's dialed in that range and he's got himself set up, he's now going for the knockout potential punches and forcing Backho to really play defensive. And he's on two mining bases now with this third and fourth after the mineral gets taken down. He's really starting to tighten the noose on Backho. As long as he trades even remotely efficiently now at close to 45-50% rating, then he will eventually dry Backho up in this game. Already currently enjoying a pretty healthy supply lead of 20, and now he's utilizing this pizza slice to drive a wedge between the reinforcements and this natural fourth of Backho. He's putting a clock on this expansion, and Backho has to keep trading into lurkers on high ground and inefficiently dealing with the Zerg, and we'll be paying the price. Even probes now starting to fall. GG is called, and we are tying up this series, going to a decider match between Killer and Backho. I'm not too surprised. I think that Killer's found his mojo yet again after that bit of an upset in game number 1 after that cannon rush.
Definitely showing some nerves there, but ultimately taking down Backho in this game. Well played indeed by Killer. One final game remains, guys. We're going to see who makes it through to take on Scan in that final match. That's coming right up.
박준호 선수입니다.
Killer over here in the top right. Backho top left. Definitely falling by the wayside there a little bit as the game dragged on into the late stages. I thought Killer would have been more adept in the early game, but it seems like Backho getting the advantage of him, the better of him in both of these two first games, and then Killer kind of coming back stronger in the late game here, game number 2. Definitely seems to be better at maneuvering his armies, and like you said, making those feints, those surrounds, at least threatening the counterattacks and surrounds here to just keep Backho on his toes, on his back foot. And getting into that deep late game, the Defiler usage, of course, was very good as well. Killer handling his business. Now, can he close out the series here in this final game? Will be opening with an earlier pool, Overlord pool, or Overpool for this last one.
Bit of a tongue twister. Got it out eventually, Sam. But yeah, I mean, not going to be that same kind of 9-pool shenanigans we saw on Dominator. Instead, much more middle of the road approach. Very safe way of playing this matchup. I do like this way more than something like a 9-pool or 11 hatch. I think it's the tried and true way of playing Zerg versus Protoss, and shows that you don't want to, get away with any easy wins in the early game. You just want to play a straight up game and eventually outmaneuver your opponent the longer the game goes on. We will be seeing potentially a bit of a slowdown by this probe in the natural, though Killer might take his third at the another location as a result. The problem with this is you don't know for sure where the opponent is unless you get lucky with the Overlord Scout. So in this case, he knows that Backho is up here in the top left, so he can just make his hatchery here at the natural third in the bottom right quadrant, which is actually a big win for Killer, getting that fast Overlord Scout to make it easier to deal with the pro block.
And so he will pop out a couple of Lings here. Sitting on 13 supply. Likely just going to grab this third base. Oh, grabs the gas before the third base. Wants to make sure that he can get that Spire out on curve. Gets the probe as well. That's a nice pickup here for Killer. Things starting to go his way in the early game, finally, for once.
Yeah, I mean, he usually is pretty adept with his execution in the early game. I think he just kind of got blindsided by that cannon rush in game number 1. Did tilt a little bit and kind of played a little bit unusually as a result. But I think he's found his mojo, found his ebb and flow. He's back in the groove, and he won't be collecting any more moss now on his Rolling Stone.
With this Forge Fast Expand, Backho doesn't have a lot of information or a lot of tools to get information as to what the follow-up here is for Killer. He's trying to slip a probe out, but Killer not going to let that happen. And so Backho could be in the dark here for quite some time. He will be able to make a Zealot soon and start to perhaps push things back. Try to get some of that information, that precious information, but
yeah,
it's still going to be a tough sell. It's going to be tough to get that. Might want to do something like a Zealot move out on the bottom lane and then slip by with a probe. He really does need to know what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, this matchup is all about information. The Zerg has an easier time of ascertaining information by utilizing the Overlords early. And once they can deny scouts by the probes and the Zealots and force them to commit to that Corsair to actually get any kind of intel, that's what makes Zerg so favorite in this matchup. A lot of people think this matchup is really unbalanced. Now, it is slightly imbalanced, favoring the Zerg, but nowhere near as much as people think. It mainly comes down to information. Assuming perfect play by the Protoss player and utilizing good scouting information, they can actually min-max very effectively against Zerg and make it very tough for the Zerg in the mid-game. It's only when they don't have information that Zerg can kind of get away with murder a little bit and force Protoss to be on the back foot, trying to hedge their bets and play very middle of the road or take some big gambles that could get punished. If you do have perfect scouting information, though, the Protoss player can min-max and optimize and get one over the Zerg. But in situations like this, you have to try and make sacrifices, commit Zealots out onto the map, try and get some scouting information as early as possible.
There we go. Gonna get rid of that probe. Very nice play from Killer to make sure that that goes down. We'll be able to catch onto these Zealots as well. And you hit the nail on the head. It's just kind of forced to be sacrificed here. Really no choice in the matter. He's got to get some sort of information going. And so throwing out a probe on the map, throwing out a Zealot on the map, these are just sacrificial. And great pickups for a Killer. You know, forcing out the Lings is nice, but losing these early Zealots is so painful.
Right.
And so,
I mean,
he will be able to get over there with the Corsair now, but this should be a pretty quick Spire.
Yeah, I mean, now that he's had to wait this long for the Corsair to scout, he can't really optimize his build quite as much as he would like to in the situation. Killer probably is doing a relatively normal game plan as well. He might just, do a normal 5-hatch into 6-hatch Hydra. Has got the second gas going online at the third. Corsair going to be identifying that now, but that's not a suspicious gas timing or anything. That's pretty standard. Doesn't necessarily mean he is going to go for anything suspicious here. So there's not really much information to go on now from Backho. He's got it lined up knowing that there's not going to be anything too crazy early game, but this could still be like, you know, a 5 Mutalisk play. So he has to respect that. Make some cannons in his main and natural mineral line just in case it transitions into an Ogre Zerg style gamer with like 10 Mutas and 12 Scourge. But I mean, Killer doesn't have to go for that. It could just be 5 Mutas with a few pairs of Scourge and then call it a day and go into pure Hydra. And Backho will have no idea about that. He has to stay back in his main base until he has 5 or 6 Corsairs, and that's the big information warfare win here for Zerg.
Good number of Zealots starting to push out a little bit. Backho can try to obfuscate with that, try to hide some of these Zealots out on the map, come into a different angle, and surprise Killer at one of these bases. But for now, Killer just keeping tabs on that. Yeah, I think it's just one Zealot moving over towards center right. Losing track of that a little bit. Oh, it's a DT slipping through.
Okay.
Let's see what he can get done with this. Killer has been on top of these plays so far this game, and there's no Overlords that have gone down, so he should definitely have full detection, and indeed he does. Great defensive position here for Killer. That DT gets nothing done aside from scouting this bottom right and making sure that no 4th base can come up just yet.
Yeah, Killer's been wiping his eye and stirring his tea at the appropriate moments here, and I doubt there'll be anything that Backho can really do to thwart him in his efforts going forward. Seems like we will be seeing that sort of 6-hatch Hydra setup from Killer that has been threatening the Ogre Zerg potential this entire time with the 3rd gas. Going to be scouting around with this Scourge. Seems like Backho, though, calling his bluff and hasn't made too many Corsairs. Instead, going to be hedging his bets with a Dark Archon. Maelstrom obviously effective. Ooh, almost catches a Corsair on the turnaround. They will be able to utilize that Dark Archon to shut down a potential Muta switch, as well as utilizing that Maelstrom on the Hydras and Lurkers on the ground as well. Sometimes it's really good to like Maelstrom Lurkers just before they can burrow, and suddenly the Zerg's in a lot of trouble. So I really do like the Dark Archon meta that we're seeing now in this day and age, and maybe Backho can make something work coming forward. It's a pretty early robo to get observers out, but I'm really loving the position of Killer.
No, I'm a big fan. I like the Dark Archon play here from Backho. If you're not going to keep making Corsairs and you're not going to make Archons,
Right.
getting that Dark Archon, it really does seem like a necessity. That DT goes down
Yeah,
bottom right.
necessities.
And indeed, a 4th base could come out here for Killer. He's got map control completely. 1 Corsair flying through. Eventually, that will go down. Scouts the main, sees no Hive started here just yet. It's a bit early for that still. But he's got the bead on that Spire, and there's the Mutalisk transition. Hey, this could work out really good for Backho if he gets the snipe on all those Mutas with the Maelstrom. Just shut that down immediately. Let's see if he's able to get that, make that happen. He's hidden the Dark Archon pretty well so far. Let's see if Killer gets baited into this army. Oh, he sees it. There we go.
That's crazy. That's such a good scout. Scourge have such a short rush distance, so to utilize them for scouting that well is really exceptional. He got the Mutas in the main base, actually. He knows the Archon is in the natural, so the Mutas have like a few, like 10-20 seconds of free reign in the main base to shut down these cannons, kill a few probes, and then make their exit. They have to leave now, though. He's going to leave 2 Mutas to snipe probes and be super annoying. He doesn't want to waste Maelstrom on just 2 Mutas, but he's going to pick up a few probe kills as a result. Really nice execution, thinking tactically as Killer. Now rotating these Mutas out, taking a few phase disruption shots for free, but there's Hydra's waiting to pounce on these Dragoons that are now out of position, Saiyan.
Oh, this is a rough move for Backho. I mean, bringing these Dragoons down here was a cute maneuver to try and catch the Mutas on the way out, but the Hydras being right there in the natural, able to wrap around, and he gets a few Dragoon kills for free. This is really strong stuff. Out of it, Backho. Now flying back into the main, he's going to start to deal some damage on those probes again. Where's the Maelstrom? No Maelstrom available right here just yet. Backho getting pulled left and right, to and fro. He is going to go for one massive counter attack, just kind of giving up on defending his main base here. Can he just make this work? It's all or nothing.
I mean, this is a pretty big deal. He's losing like 500 plus minerals, lack of mining time, at least from having to pull the probes like that. Putting the counter attack onto Killer, though, he's hoping there's not enough defending back at home. Killer desperately throwing down all the sunken colonies to hold this. He knows he's in a little bit of trouble. These Dragoons act like siege tanks. He could pick off this hatchery and Hydra Den without fully committing to this attack. Beautiful storm on the back line, actually not quite going deep enough. Needs to do a follow-up storm. There's a much better blanket on those Hydras to try and send them into an everlasting nap. Willis trying to come in to reinforce this. Here come the pincer maneuver on both sides. Is there going to be a beautiful Maelstrom Storm combo on the northern flank? Zealots have done a good job of busting through those Sunkens. The Dragoons are trying to stand their ground, but that's a lot of Hydras wrapping around from the back now, saying with good target fire, he's going to mop up the rest of this Protoss force, and there's not going to be enough damage done as a result. He's got one high temple of 200 energy in the Zerg's mineral line. If he can find some good storms there, that's pretty good storms, crippling some of the economy of Killer, but it's not going to be enough. He's got his fourth base up in the bottom right. He's cut off the head of Backho's snake right now, and that's going to be very painful indeed.
Ooh, there it is. Killer takes it home. That counterattack was scary. He didn't have those extra storms. That one Templar on the right, I think that's going to haunt Backho for a while. If he had that with the army, he might have been able to hold that. Kind of crazy, but sometimes it comes down to just one or two extra storms in a fight, and then suddenly the Dragoons can be on top of all of the production, and you can just bust right through that.
Yeah, that's what makes these guys pro gamers at the end of the day, saying it comes down to these razor thin margins. Sometimes you'll even have like a 40-minute game and it comes down to a few units, like literally like less than 500 minerals worth of units make the difference when all's said and done. And you'll see that on the ladder as well. One of the things that make S-rank players so potent is they don't bleed their units nearly as much, and they actually understand how to trade well, how to utilize their resources. And we saw that from Killer, especially in game number 2 with his maneuver-based warfare. Like, he was threatening the idea of counterattacks and wraparounds and flanks, but not actually committing to them, not actually bleeding off the units and opening himself up to further counterattack potential from the Protoss. And that's what I love to see from these guys, is really high caliber maneuver-based warfare, utilizing units to the best of their ability and not bleeding them dry. Here we go though, guys. It's going to be the final match between Scan and Killer. This is going to be an epic series.
Yeah, we're about to get into it here, guys. Are you ready? Let's see if Scan can make it through the round of 16 here. He's spawning over in the top right-hand corner. Killer in bottom, or sorry, bottom right.
Yeah, bottom
Killer
right.
in bottom left. We got horizontal spawns again. That's exactly what we saw in that second game.
Yeah, it does favor the Zerg. I mean, and, you know, Killer kind of got caught with his pants down, though. Scan did identify how low economy the Zerg was and was able just to sit. This time around, Killer could pull a 2-hatch all-in muta and force the issue, so it doesn't even matter that there's scouting information. He might still be able to make it happen with good execution. And that's what's so scary about some of these Zerg plays, is it's not even a matter of identifying it. It's a matter of not being outmaneuvered and out-microed. Sometimes these Zerg players are just so good with their mutalist harass that even if you do know it's coming and you're making non-stop turret production and marine production and you're cutting SCVs, it's still not enough to hold the line. I have to wait and see if that's what Killer wants to go for here. He's going for a 12-hatch instead of 11 pull this time, so it's definitely not a super all-in 2-hatch muta play. Definitely keeping his options as open as possible.
I'm curious what we're going to see out of Killer. I'm expecting just really standard and careful play from Scan. He knows that he's improved a lot, and he's very strong, capable of taking out Killer, as we saw in their first game. He just needs to not make any mistakes. Don't let Killer get in there, because he's going to be looking for every opportunity to steal this one away.
I mean, Killer's just a man after my own heart. Like, this is exactly the kind of build order I would open with, and I would certainly cross-map Drone Scout. And he's done exactly that here to avoid any kind of proxy 8-racks, BBS shenanigans, as well as identifying whether or not the Terran is in close spawns or not. And that's going to be a big deal. He sees with his Overlord the move-out timing of those SCVs, so he should now be able to figure out the Terran players in the bottom right. and knows there's probably not going to be any super early pressure. Scan does sometimes go for 10 racks base plays to put on pressure early on, but he sees there's nothing out on the map or in the wall in here, so he knows he's pretty safe from any early game shenanigans from Scan. Going to be a very optimized lair timing at 254. He tried to get a slightly earlier lair, actually. He tried to go for a 252 lair by making the pool and the gas simultaneously, by starting the animation of the drone sliding onto the gas despite not having enough minerals, but he didn't quite get it, so his gas was 2 seconds or so behind schedule, so he couldn't get a really crisp lair, but it's still good enough.
A few naked Marines out here on the map are going to be threatening the counterattack, but getting some good damage on this SCV initially. Killer, as soon as he's removed that, he also removes the threat of the naked Marine push. If you can't see what's popping out of the eggs here as Scan, you can't really push this with any sort of confidence. So pushing that out immediately, it serves a dual purpose. Getting rid of this the scouting information, and also discouraging the Terran player from pushing forward with those naked Marines. It makes you a lot safer here, and indeed Scan is going to be able to back up now over into the natural. We'll probably see another supply depot in here to try and wall this up a little bit more in case there's some sort of commitment once again from Killer going for a bunch of links to try and break him early.
Now, he did go for Ling speed as well as making a 2.5 hatchery here, so trying to throw Scan off a little bit in this game. That game number 1 that they played might come into factor here, because Scan might be a little bit hesitant to pull the trigger on any kind of move out timings, but this would be an okay time to do so. But Killer kind of wants you to sit back and do nothing right now. He's going to be optimizing his own lava production as well as taking a pretty fast third on location. Killer playing greedy. Sometimes the best way to play cheesy is to play extra macro cheesy, he's saying. They're sitting back waiting for the aggression to come online, but really you're taking a few gambles of your own, playing super greedy back at home, and it might pay off here.
Yeah, Scan's not going to push out at all. He's got the +1 upgrade on the way. Going to be going into 3 racks, possibly all the way up into 4 racks production, and
yeah,
really massing out those Marines for a mid-game push. But this really does work well for Killer. It falls right into his hands with so much greed here early. He's going to have amazing production and excellent economy to be able to deal with this big 4 racks Marine explosion.
I mean, this is really well played from Killer. Like, I'm really impressed, because he's kind of making Scan think that it's going to be the usual. He's even got some speed links to feint Scan. Had he gone for that move out, that Scan doesn't really tell him anything, by the way. The only thing it tells him is that he's playing slightly greedy because he's got 4 eggs morphing at once, which means he was pooling lava and optimizing for late mutas, so he knows that this is some kind of greed. He doesn't know exactly what, though. He doesn't know that this is a 2.5 hatch into fast third on location. He knows this is a little bit greedy, but it's not that uncommon for Zergs to play a teeny tiny bit greedy here. I'm hoping that Scan can put the puzzle pieces together after seeing those 4 eggs morphing at once and be like, hang on a minute, you might be playing super greedy right now.
This is a classic move from players like Hero. 5 mutas only have been made, and he's just going to threaten some sort of an attack in, force some more turrets, and keep these Marines back while powering up hard. I'm not sure exactly where that Scan was thrown down, but it's unlikely that Scan has completely figured out what's going on here. Pretty unlikely that he scanned that 3rd base. In fact, he's probably scanning in the top corners, or maybe in that main base again to try and decipher what's going on here. But that's a great spot as well, that extra base to throw down some additional tech. He can throw down a Hydra Den over there, Queen's Nest. Whenever he decides to start transitioning, that location is very unlikely to get scanned. In fact, he is scanning top left. You can see it now on the mini-map.
Yeah. He scanned both the top left and the top left natural. He knows there's a chance that there's a very fast Zerg expansion, but he hasn't been yet able to identify it. He knows there's some kind of greed. He doesn't know what. And Killer's done a great job of obfuscating exactly what he's going for by taking the natural 3rd instead of a bit more of a traditional 3rd base location in like the top left or something like that. So now Scan is completely thrown off his ebb and flow. Won't be able to really have any kind of directive to work towards, and instead Killer is going to be outscaling with a crazy amount of mutaling. This is going to be like a Soul Key style cleanup with tons of mutalisks and zerglings just wiping out the Bioforce. Scan though, why is he going to be reinforcing this Bible with another control group? So he now has enough fighting force to hold the line. I still think though Killer might be getting the better of him.
With that +1 coming online, this Bioforce is extremely strong. Very difficult to take that on head to head. But if Killer can get a few snipes here, little by little start to whittle this down and add on more and more mutas to this stack, he may be able to break through, already losing a couple of mutas to just a first couple of swipes. And so Scan is looking quite powerful indeed, going to continue to reinforce this. That's a lot of Lings, but again, Lings are going to absolutely melt to this +1. Needs to combine this perfectly.
I think this is like Sweeney Todd style Zerg, where you're kind of acting like a normal barber, you know, lining them up, shaving a little bit off the top and making them look a little bit dapper, but then really you're going to just take out their entire throat in one swoop with a massive mutaling force. He's got a nice Bible here to work with. Actually, Killer thinking the better of it with that preemptive scan. That's preemptive stim from Scan. Scan now reinforcing that Bible yet again. Killer might be in a little bit of trouble if Scan's doing the fundamentals correctly here, reinforcing this Bible over and over again. There's not a crazy amount of medics to support this, but there's a lot of punching power with these Gauss rifles. You might be seeing a counter attack actually come down, a bit of a link stab in the natural, but not going to be transpiring. He realizes just how much of a threat this Bible is. He's got 2 lurkers finished off. A Scan could scan and take that down. Does manage to get a scan and target for on the 2 lurkers. They both fall. Killer's in trouble. He has to commit with these Zerglings from behind, and he's doing a pretty good job of trading off these Marines, but I'm not sure there's quite enough. It looks like just barely Killer should be able to do it, but I don't think so. I think the Lings came in just enough trickle that he's going to be tapping out. Quick lead here for Scan in this best-of-3 series. Wow, we might be seeing 2 Terrans joining us in the next round, saying I'm super excited.
Oof. I don't know how many of you guys caught that, but there was a huge supply block going on for our Zerg player. Is caught at 76 supply, and he went over 1,000 minerals, 1,000 gas in that very important moment. So definitely getting caught up in the heat of the moment a little bit, struggling to be able to put together a big fighting force with 4 hatcheries and how much gas he was mining there. He should have been able to pump out a big enough force to take that down. Maybe Scan could have taken him out with the follow-up, but I didn't really expect for him to just topple there. He definitely should have been able to put things together, but missing an Overlord at a critical moment, it will just lose you games at any level, and especially at the pro level.
All right, guys, we're going to be jumping into our second game of this series. Can Scan smash this guy down or not? We're about to find out now. We've got Dominator.
Killer down here in the bottom left. Scan top left. Scan gonna be breathing a sigh of relief here. He's got the best spawn on this map. Most.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, sorry. Center right, the best spawn, right?
Yeah. Center right is definitely far superior.
At least he doesn't have this spawn.
Top left is the second worst. Bottom left is arguably worse, even though the gas is closer to the minerals in the sense of coverage with the turrets. You've got this massive back pocket and the dead zone that's really easily exploitable by the mutas. In the top left, the gas is off to the side, so it's harder to spread your turrets in such a distribution that it makes it easier to defend. And we can see Flash identifying that becoming a potential issue. He's going to be putting the pressure on early with a forward 8 racks and wanting to see if he can take the fight to Killer and try and exploit some of these 12 hatch openings. I'm surprised we haven't yet seen an 11 pool or something from Killer. Oh, it might be 11 pool this time. He's going 11 pool at the perfect moment, saying, I've been waiting for this guy to go for this build. He is one of the best in the business at going for these 11 pool openings and optimizing either for a very fast lair timing, going for 2 hatch all in muta, or even a ling speed into lair and going for a bit of a ling run by. Either way, the 11 pool makes you super safe against the 8 racks and BBS potential.
Scan. They're gonna try to put on this pressure, but with that early pool, assuming Killer gets the information here early and doesn't walk up a ramp against all of these Marines and lose a bunch of Lings early on, should be able to handle this no problem. You called him Flash a little bit earlier. Scan is improving for sure. He's not quite at that level though, Xun. I mean,
I got Flash on the brain, okay?
We are gonna have a couple of SCVs making their way across the map with these Marines. He comes in and sees the bad news. Lings are popping out, and so he's not going to be able to go with his original plan. However, might still be able to surprise Killer. You'd be surprised. You got this early pool. You think that you're safe, but if you walk up a ramp and there's a bunch of Marines standing right there, suddenly those 4 Lings die, and then it's anybody's game. You might be in a lot of trouble here as Zerg.
Yeah, this is Ling speed into Lair as well, so unless he catches 2 of these Zerglings for free, he could be in a lot of trouble. It depends on how many additional Lings you want to make. You can go 6 Zerglings total and play a normal macro game. If you make 8, you're kind of pretty much semi all in. At that point, you have to get damage done with those Zerglings or transition into like a Hydra Guardian style or something like that. You can't play a normal straight up macro game if it's more than 6 Lings, and it is going to be 8 Zerglings. Scan sees that critically with his SCV scout, so he should be able to identify what's coming. A little bit of panic from him at accidentally targeting his own barracks for a second there, but there's going to be a lot of pressure from these 8 Speedlings wanting to go for a run by potential or just a surround on those Marines. Actually doing a good job of keeping these Lings chasing this SCV in the main base for quite some time. But Killer is technically semi all in with this style. If you make this many Zerglings early on, you kind of have to do damage with it. But it's actually going to be a bit of a weird game where Scan's going for a 1 base, 2 barracks academy to try and put some tech advantage under his sails right off the get-go, get some medics and potentially a firebat out early on to fight against this initial Speedling attempt. Is going to be pretty all-in Zerglings actually from Killer going into this Spire play, and Scan actually has an answer for that with this fast second racks.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get a very fast couple of medics here, possibly, like you said, firebat as well. Double medic. At this point in the game, these Lings are kind of like fodder. You're not going to be able to stop this with just pure Ling. It's going to be very, very hard, so he has to start double Sunken Colony. That's all you really need is Sunken Colonies to defend this. And it looks like he may be able to, with just a bit of a slowdown and killing a few Marines, finish, or at least buy time for these Sunken Colonies to finish. And it looks like he will do that. Scan probably going to have to transition behind this. You're not going to break those 2 Sunkens.
No, with the Speedlings and the 2 Sunkens, there should be a transition. He should be taking his expansion soon. He could go for a crazy tank push here, make a factory really early on, and try and, like, you know, contain the Zerg into that. But I doubt he'll go for something like that. It's just too risky because you've got the Mutalisk follow-up to worry about as well. It makes way more sense to try and play a normal macro game from back behind this. But I do like how Scan is initially playing. He's even got 3 Firebats to prevent a flood of Zerglings overwhelming him. He's forcing more and more Sunkens. Oh, please tell me you're not going to try and go for a run by here. He's actually going to bust this. Are you kidding me, Scan? This is absolute insanity. Has got 2 Firebats protecting the flank. I'm not sure this is a great idea from Scan. I think it's a really big overextension. I don't like that position at all. As much as I like our boy Scan, I can't agree with that decision making.
Yeah, this is a bit suicidal here. Scan feeling like he needed to do something there, but it wasn't really the case. Making 3 Sunken Colonies at the front that eats into Killer's economy so much. If he just sends those Marines back home and starts his CC, he should be able to transition. Just now, mutas are going to start to come out here, and he just won't have that Marine number anymore to just shut that down quickly and, you know, rely on less turrets. He's gonna have to build a lot of turrets here if he wants to get on the base, and it doesn't seem like he's doing it. He's not getting a CC here. What are we seeing out of Scan? Is it gonna be that tank push like you were talking about?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know how well it's gonna work with losing some of that Bioforce for free. What? Okay, he's going. I mean, okay, so you can play 4 barracks on 1 base and transition into 1 single starport worth for vessels. But I mean, it's not that strong. It's like the OG way of playing Terran versus Zerg, and there's a reason why it's an old way of playing. It's just not up to scruff, unfortunately. I don't up to snuff. I don't think it's going to be a good idea. He can technically go for a sunken bus potential with a build like this. Okay, he's actually cancelling and going for the factory. Okay, he heard us and was like, okay, you guys are right. I need to tech up now, get a fast factory. I'm actually kind of glad he's doing that because the 4 racks would not have worked.
You know, I wonder if there's any merit to, for instance, hiding a factory out on the map in a situation like this. Like, put a factory like way over on the right-hand side and then rally the tanks over from that angle, because this is going to be so hard to move the tanks across the map with all these Marines. The mutas are going to be able to have lots of opportunities to snipe those down, and he needs to get those tanks to the front. This is do or die. He has to get the tanks to the front, and Killer, all he has to do is shut those down, and he will be fine.
I'm really confused why he's building a supply depot underneath his gas. Like, that just makes it even easier for Killer to exploit this base positioning. He's giving more potential for Killer to pick up some free damage here. Eventually that gas can go down. He needs to repair it with at least 1 SCV. He will be able to do that and start to challenge. Oh, even the bounce of the glaive is going to be killing one of those Marines. Oh, you see what I mean? You can't build the depot here. It blocks the Marines from fighting against the mutas, and it allows SCVs to be sniped as it's building the depot. Like, this is a really big misplay from Scan, I think.
Well, Scan's already in a super difficult position. If he wins this game, it's going to have to be off of Killer making a pretty big mistake. He's already adding on his Hydralisk Den. Can't get into some lurkers here. Lurkers just make it so desperately hard to break through. Doesn't really help out against the tank push, but the mutas are here to deal with the tank. If the tank comes through, oh, he's not even gonna make a tank. He's gonna make a vessel.
Yeah. He's doing the OG build where you go like 3-4 racks with 1 starport worth of vessels on 1 base that I talked about earlier. It is the okay option to go for here. There's not really much else he can do, but look at the gas that Killer's pulled up. That's going to be so many lurkers or either additional mutas or whatever he wants, and as many Scourge as he can afford with his lava. He's making a macro hatchery in the main base as well, which is perfect in this situation, and killing all these mutalisks like this as well. I mean, kill all the Marines, the mutalisks like this as well, saying, like, this game is definitely going Killer's way. I mean, if things continue on this trend, we are definitely going to be seeing a game number 3.
Yeah, this is too much. That's a lot of mutas coming through now. Killer, like you said, huge gas bank. And so he can just keep doing this all day. And Scan is struggling to get anything out here. He's going to wait for his vessel at least and hope for some awesome irradiate to come out with this big bust timing. Try to bust through that natural. But Killer, he could just make a ton of sunken colonies here. He makes 6 sunken colonies, not a big deal. And then, have some lurkers morphing in the front. He's just going to be completely fine. He's even going to go into Hive here off of 2 base. Eventually, there's going to be a Defiler, and then there's just no answer from Scan. Of course, the vessels will be out, and he can throw down irradiates, but 1 vessel at a time is just not enough irradiate to deal with all this stuff.
Right. Yeah, 2 base Zerg is more than enough to deal with what Scan is going for here. And he can't afford to make Marine, medic, and vessels and tanks. He kind of has to pick one. Vessels just have the superior value overall, but it means there's no potential on something like a tank push, putting a clock on Killer. And with that gas bank now being spent, he's going to have not only these high count of mutas out on the map, but also a lot of lurkers morphing back at home, which means that if he does irradiate the mutas, that's just 1 less irradiate to break through the lurker lines. He's got a few seconds until that irradiate is ready. Needs to be careful he doesn't get that vessel picked off as well. Just 3 volleys from those mutas will easily clean that up.
Gotta be very careful here, Scan. This is everything. This is his whole army. Everything he's been building up to. That vessel took him a crazy long time to get out. And he's finally got some level of splash damage to deal with those mutas. He cannot let that go. Would be an amazing pickup if Killer can put a couple Scourge together and maybe get a snipe on that. Probably would be like a killing blow here. Usually one vessel going down, not that big of a deal, but here it's everything. If Scan loses that, he is just going to have to tap out of this game, I imagine, and I don't even see where that vessel is. He's pulling it back here. Lurkers coming forward. They're going to be scouted. But already on this high ground and putting a clock on Scan.
Yeah. I mean, this is brutal. Like, he just won't have enough irradiates to deal with this. Like, he has to hope that he catches Killer off guard as the Lurkers are running in or running out or something, and kill a few of them for free to have any chance at trading efficiently in this game. There will not be enough irradiates to deal with. And if he does burn all of his irradiates on Lurkers, he then can't stop the Defilers coming across the map for free. So there's no good answer here from Scan. It's either bank the energy to kill the Defilers and then you can't deal with the Lurkers, or you waste your irradiates on the Lurkers and you can't deal with the Defiler push to checkmate you out of the game. So Scan kind of hoping for the stars to align here and waiting for a potential mistake from Killer, but assuming perfect play from our Zerg, this should definitely be going to game 3.
First irradiate here. Gets a little bit of damage. But a good pull from Killer mitigates the majority of that. Doesn't really have any energy left for this irradiate, but we've only seen... Okay, there's the second vessel finally coming out. Second gas is going to be taken here soon by Scan, I assume. So he can start to make at least double vessel production, get that going. Has enough barracks for the moment and has a pretty good count of SCVs, but he's going to lose this first vessel. Oh my god, great target fire there. He loses one vessel. Pretty decent target fire out of Scan.
Yeah, not bad. That was pretty okay. He's still in a lot of trouble, though. Like, all that's doing is maintaining the game state, essentially. And the game state was already favoring Killer in this situation. So, yeah, the position's still looking like it's going to be eventually a Zerg victory. But, I mean, anything can go wrong for the Zerg. Defilers aren't the easiest things to utilize in the world. As strong as they are, say, and, I mean, one tiny oversight and suddenly your 80 HP spellcasters have disappeared and you're in trouble again. So definitely could occur, but he's made 4 Defilers to make sure that no matter how many irradiates come down onto these first 2 Defilers, it won't matter. He'll be able to go the distance now. These first Defilers are going to start leapfrogging some orange clouds. Oh, he's got Plague already! Oh my gosh, this is going to get insane really quick, because even if these Defilers die now, he's even almost getting the snipe on that vessel. He's going to have some either Dark Swarms defensively to prevent counterattacks, or even more Plagues coming out in just a moment here. Some pretty good irradiates on those Muters, but haven't yet cleaned those up. He needs to be careful not to get all of these Marines cleaned up after those irradiate Plagues. When another beautiful Plague. And the problem with the Plague is that it drains the medic energy as well. So by the time that all of that has gone down, the medics won't be able to heal up the Bioforce efficiently anymore. And one way you can counteract that is by putting everything on move command after you get plagued, so that they don't try and heal while things are plagued. But that's difficult to execute usually without just dying. And unfortunately, Scan did burn through most of his reservoirs of energy.
Looks like one of those vessels got sniped there too. At least that's what it looked like there. Killer getting those plagues down. He's got the double evolution chamber. This is one of the things I love to do when I have a situation like this. Oftentimes on the ladder, you come across these Terran players who want to play one base and just try to break you open early, and just getting a bunch of sunken colonies and then starting an upgrade can be a great way to transition, because the Terran player has been just so low on gas the whole time, right? Making these medics, making these early tech units, you know, teching up to vessel. That's costing so much gas. He hasn't had money to really get these upgrades online. And if you can get that upgrade advantage really early on, it just leads to such an easy cleanup and a victory in the later stages of the game. Scan is going to take this long, it appears, with a bunch of mines out on the map. He set up a good defensive position. There's no 4th gas here just yet for Killer, but I think we're going to see a bunch of Ultralists potentially pop out here soon.
Yeah, he's got a lot of gas banked up as well to utilize. Scan actually taking a 3rd base, a bit ahead of a schedule, and has got these mines to try and sandbag any attempts from Killer to go on the counter attack. And Will we be seeing a bit of a biomech transition from Scan? Will we see more and more factories being made? He could go all the way up into 3-factory tank behind this once he gets that economy set up, but it's going to be a bit of a long time coming. I'm going to have quite a few macro hatcheries for Killer to utilize. He's got 2 macro hatcheries in the main, 1 at the 3rd, and this natural 4th mineral only coming up. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hatcheries worth of production. They're going to be coming online soon. Tries to get around and maybe snipe some of these vessels, but good interception from Scan. Scan's definitely making the deficit become narrower right now, and eventually might be able to get some black numbers on the spreadsheet once he eventually gets this 3rd base online because of how slow the 4th gas has been from Killer. So maybe Scan can slowly mount a comeback here the longer this game ticks by. We'll have to see.
Yeah, transitioning to biomech, not a bad idea. Get those mech upgrades online. Can really start to chunk through these Hydralisk plays. Oh, gonna lose a vessel here, unfortunately. Allowing those to sit out in front. Big mistake there from Scan. These vessels are super important right now. He's not gonna be able to make many more of them as he's transitioning here into this mech play. Only 2 factories so far, but that's kind of what you need against this Hydralisk play, the kind of Plague Hydra style that Killer has been going for. 3rd evolution chamber coming up. I think this is for the transition eventually into ultras, but he hasn't gone that far just yet. He's mostly focusing on just getting out masses of Hydralisk Defiler for now.
I mean, ultras are almost always the end game point for this matchup in ZVT. Is usually just how you get there and what variations you take. We've got a pretty big engagement here. Not really landing the best of plays. Good surge forward from Scan to shut that down. Currently supply blocking Killer as well. Currently doing a good job of shuffling back to this high ground, then going back for a snipe on that lurker. Pretty good control of his units overall. But Killer will eventually get this 4th gas online in the 6 o'clock. And Scan kind of needs to take his 4th now. It's not going to be enough to take this 3rd. He's going to be mined out in his main way before his natural, so he doesn't necessarily have to take it right this second, but it would be wise to start to think about this 4th base timing for Scan, unless he somehow thinks he can kill Killer, but that's going to be a bit of a tall order.
Tanks are moving forward. This is the backbone of the army here for Scan. He's got to keep these alive. If these all get wiped out here with this push, Scan is going to be in a really bad way. He is shoving up onto this high ground and getting himself into quite a nice spot in terms of... Oh, God, here comes the Hydras. Okay, Ultras? No, those are Lurkers. Very hard to see under this dark swarm. What's actually popping out here for Killer and moving forward? But this tank line goes deep, and Scan will hold the position.
Yeah, these, like, massive Cheeto dust clouds are really annoying to deal with as Terran, generally speaking. We'll have to utilize the tanks to do most of the heavy lifting alongside the irradiate spells of those vessels. Still, Scan yet to take his 4th base. He really needs to start thinking about it. He won't, like I said, won't be mined out too quickly on this natural with how things have gone in the early game, but the longer this game goes on, the more gas and minerals he's definitely going to need to keep up with the Zerg. Now this 4th gas base has just gone online. He will take that 4th gas in just a moment here and really start to put the pressure on Scan if he's not careful. He has got the CC made up here in the top right, actually, so he will be able to float that over to this top right pocket and start to get more and more gas online for himself, easily being able to afford the tanks necessary. The longer this game goes on and the higher the tank count gets, Scan can make it work. He's pushing forward down now, trying to seize more territory away from Killer. Look at that Dark Swarm. They're getting right on top of those tanks. Has to kind of pull them back. Doesn't want to splash down his own units underneath the Dark Swarm as well. Killer re-seizing that territory yet again, keeping Scan as far away from this natural 3rd as possible. Beautiful Plague on the Biosane as well.
Great Plague there, and able to push up on the left-hand side as well. The tank number is dwindling, falling all the way back to these last 3 in the back line. Scan not making any progress. Yeah, Killer's going to go in there. I don't think he's got a Defiler with that attack, but he's going to be bringing Hydra Lurker up onto that high ground, potentially taking out the CC as well. I think the CC was floating down. He might actually kill that CC.
Yeah, I think the Observer missing it here, but he's almost getting the kill on that. Luckily going to save it, but does delay the 4th base, now distracting him enough to maybe break through another 2 of these tanks in the line here, maybe even the 3rd. That's a big deal. The whole point of this biomech style is that you keep pulling your tanks up to, 12, 18, maybe even 24 tanks, and that's when you start to turn the tables on the Zerg. They can no longer keep their army alive under Dark Swarm, and the tanks just shred through everything, but he's lost so many of his tank counts. They've been reset over and over again. Scan gonna have to rely on some maneuver-based warfare, trying to pull the Zerg apart and knock out some of these expansions if he can, but Killer should have enough resources to leverage to prevent that from occurring.
Oh, I like the position here in the middle of the map, starting to stretch out. It's kind of like a TVP in that regard, pushing forward like that. Hearing some more plagues coming out. Looks like nothing too impactful. Scan gonna get another wave of irradiates down as he tries to push in towards one of these bases. He's got a bit of a supply advantage, but Killer is looking pretty strong. There's a great plague. Big plague on every single vessel here is really going to hurt Scan's efforts.
Yeah, that's a monstrous plague. I mean, 1 Mutalisk is all it'll take to clean that up. Hydras as well from the ground, spitting them out of the air. I mean, Scan will feel a lot more timid and passive after that. You can see the medics still just constantly healing because they've had all their energy drained this entire time because of the monstrous constant plaguing from this Defiler play. And even though the Zerg will now start to be mined out on some of these bases, he's been kind of undeterred in his expansion paths despite the slow 4th gas. And because of the Hydra Defiler style, you don't even need a 4th gas that early. Look at those science vessels just falling out of the sky. Kind of insane cost efficiency going down for Killer, which is what this style is all about. Hydra Defiler is the most cost efficient way of playing Zerg versus Terran and not requiring as much gas to squeeze the juice out of the orange. And it'll be Scan that needs to get these additional gases online desperately and keep his mining online as much as he can to eventually get a high enough tank count to start fighting the Zerg back. But Killer's been doing a great job of thwarting those attempts from Scan.
Well, Scan's focusing most of his attention on the right-hand side. This counterattack is going to make its way over to the mineral only. Could maybe shut that down, but Scan does have another base over in top right. He can't just pull away from that mineral only. Big plague going to go down on the remainder of these vessels. So those vessels have already been plagued, so it doesn't really make much of a difference. He could, however, come up and snipe those pretty darn quick. Tanks sieging up on the low ground. A couple of irradiates going to go down, and he will deny this, at least keep this base alive, it seems, with a couple more irradiates coming out here. But this is still Scan taking on a lot of pressure now.
Yeah, the Hydras were just to draw the tank's fire to allow the Lurker to burrow under Dark Swarm, so it's going to survive for a minute unless it's irradiated. Just distracting Scan and stretching his attention span as much as possible while Killer is macroing on all cylinders back at home. He's going to start taking more bases now in the bottom right and start to split the map in half more and more, encroaching on that 3 o'clock position and get a checkmate move, economically speaking. Scan is going to really have to do something. There's more and more plagues coming out. That's a beautiful plague on top of the bio unit. So I think the vessels are already more or less plagued already, but the additional plagues on the bio are definitely critical here. They'll be draining the medic's energy forever. There's only like 4 or 5 tanks out on the map at a time. He has never getting a critical mass of them set up here because of the relentless maneuver-based warfare style of Killer, and sniping those vessels just now is really crazy value. I don't even know how Scan is going to take this game down, and beautiful attempts as well, utilizing just a few Hydras and Lurkers to push up on this vertical axis. So he's basically defending by attacking right now, getting these 2 bases set up in the bottom right while just shoving it down on this left side of the map and trading off as many of those tanks as possible.
Scan is really trying his heart out, trying to make this game work. The constant plagues just harassing him and stopping him from really growing here, pushing out and ever getting a reasonable tank count. Now Killer moving into the bottom right. It's hard to believe that this started with a 1-base Terran play, but here we are 26 minutes into the game, and Killer's gonna try to take, what, his 6th base now?
Yeah. It's gonna actually his 7th if you include the mineral only. He's got a counterattack going on at the natural 4th of Scan as well. He is not in position to defend that. The CC might fall. Scan has most of his army towards his 6 o'clock position. He has to go on a counter attack now, try and knock these bases out in the bottom right and start playing whack-a-mole with some of the Zerg expansions. He could win that way. There's some lurkers in position to try and stop that. Defiler on the outside, not able to get in there and defend that by making those lurkers essentially immortal. But for the time being, looks like he's able to get on top of his army with some good Dark Swarms and Zerglings flooding. That's not enough for Scan here to kill these bases in the bottom right, and this is going to be a slow, painful death for our Terran player. If he's not able to get down here and knock out some of these expansions going up, eventually Killer is going to run away with this game. There's one last Hail Mary from Scan, pushing down this vertical axis on the left-hand side of the map with these siege tanks. But as soon as they start going down, he's in trouble. There's a big play coming out on 3 of them. If these tanks go down now, that's going to be the last effort of Scan dwindling and drying up in this game.
Yeah, he doesn't have much moves left. Not many maneuvers that he can make remaining. He's just pushing straight down the map as he's been doing for a long period of time, whereas Killer doing these little pokes in everywhere and causing chaos for Scan to try and deal with, diving up here onto this high ground with all of his Hydras and busting through this last defense here. This final base getting taken out for Scan is going to be the killing blow. You can see he's just kind of maneuvering around the middle of the map with his army, never able to decisively take out any of those bases of Killer. And Scan is just going to fall by the wayside here as he returns back home to, save this base. Killer just gets more and more ahead. There goes all the tanks on the left-hand side. They're all going to fall. Now Scan going in for a counterattack. He just can't quite figure out a way to win this game, man. There's just nowhere to hit. There's nowhere to go with this army, and everything is coming down on his head. Everything's landing on top of him here, hitting him in his natural and actually breaking through all these bases.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a consolation prize of maybe sniping these hatcheries at the mineral army, but I don't even think that's going to amount to much. I mean, this is crazy. Even the irradiated Defiler killing. Look at the value of that right now. He's irradiated a Defiler that was easily one-shotting the Plagued Marines as it was running into the face of that bio. Really cost-efficient stuff from Killer. Absolute master class in utilizing this Hydra Defiler lurker configuration. And I'm sure Jeff Robinson would be smiling down right now that his Manzerg style has been morphed into something really beautiful over the years. And I mean, this is just a testament to how efficient Zerg players can play these days. I'm more than happy to see Zergs play like this. It's a real shame that Scan won't be getting a quick 2-0 lead and going through, but he's still got another fighting chance going into the final game in this series. Saying still going to be that third match coming up soon.
I mean, I hope it's soon. I want to go to bed at some point here. Come on, let's wrap it up there, Scan. Are we going to give up, or are we going to keep playing this game forever?
Some fantasy style GG timing, that's for sure.
Like, yeah, I guess he's got nothing better to do.
The bottom right. I mean, is that a drop, or is that some science vessels irradiating? I don't know what's going on, but there is something in the 7th base of Killer in the bottom right doing something. I don't know what.
I don't know. It's not gonna matter though. Killer is just so big. He's got so much stuff right now, and he's right in the natural of Scan. Putting the punishment on here with lurkers moving into position right up to the front of the natural. Scan is barely mining, guys. He's floated out his natural. There it is. He finally taps out. GG. Whew. What a game. What a long one.
Yeah, especially off the back of that singular base opening from Scan. I really did like his early game. Scan, that is, but I just questioned the decision to try and sunken bust it. I thought what he was going to attempt to do was run by a single firebat into the main base and try and kill drones and fake the sunken bust and use 1 or 2 firebats to defend the flank against the Zerglings. That actually would have been an okay play, because he would have had to manually target down the firebat that was running by to make sure he didn't take too much drone damage. That would have made more sense. But the trying to sunken bust, just totally a wash, I think. And that's one of the things that cost him going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Attacking the sunken colony with a firebat is never a good idea, guys. Let's jump into our last game. Final game of the night here. We got Scan over in the top left, Killer in the bottom left. 1-all in this series, and we're about to find out who makes it through to the round of 16. Yeah. I would be a little bit sad if we didn't see Scan make it through, but I think Killer's played pretty well here this series.
Yeah, no, I really think he's found his mojo again after an upsetting couple of games initially, getting smacked down by Scan on Radiant in his game number 1, falling to that loser's bracket against Backho, and kind of falling by the wayside in the first game against the cannon rush and allowing that hatchery to die against one single cannon. Suddenly surging ahead back in this game. Can he go the distance and knock out our boy Scan here? Or will Scan be making us happy for him joining Rush as 2 Terrans could make it through to the round of 16? We'll have to find out. The map is deja vu. I'm sure that Scan will want to plug into the Matrix and get a repeat of that game number 1 against Killer way back when.
See if he could make it happen. Scan. Saving up a lot of minerals here. It's kind of looking like a CC first, man. A little bit surprised to see him go for that. After Killer's opened with early pool both games.
He's gonna get away with it, I think, though. I mean, the Overlord's in the wrong direction. It's hatchery first. I mean, this is pretty good for Scan, I have to say.
Yeah, Scan getting away with that. What's he going to follow up with in the CC first? Is it going to be CC first mech? Kind of a big fan of that.
No.
I like to see it.
No, he won't do that. He'll just do a CC first bio, probably. Yeah. I mean, I don't think Scan's much of a mech player. He loves 2-port Wraith in this matchup, but he doesn't really play mech that often.
This is going to be Killer going right into his quick gas after that pool, and so he's going to be optimizing for a quicker layer. Gets in here and sees the bad news. There's already a CC here. At least the drone can harass this. That's something anyway. Right. He's doing a good job of it, putting some damage on that SCV initially. Going to swap out those SCVs before this one gets too low so that this one can still fight. Gonna make a run for it. Can he actually get the kill on that? A couple of SCVs have been pulled down here to go ahead and fight that back. Does save the SCV and will get that CC on time.
Yeah, the idea from the StRyKeR is not just to kill the SCVs, but force SCVs off the line. So these 2 SCVs that aren't mining right now, I mean, that cost him approximately 50 to 100 minerals to do so. You know, it's not a massive deal, but in StarCraft, every little detail comes down to making the difference. So having like 1 SCV less. You see how the CC wasn't even flashing right now? I'm actually surprised that we've got so many Zerglings coming across the map right now. He might just die. Scan is tilted from that initial pressure. He won't be able to handle these Zerglings. He's not pulling the SCVs quick enough. These Zerglings probably will get on top of these Marines. The SCVs are coming from the natural expansion, not the main, though. He's trying to get into the main mineral line with those. We'll snipe the SCV, building the factory. This was going to be a 1-1-1 build from Scan, which means he's very flimsy in terms of how many units he has available to him. If he went for a normal barracks opening, we'd have more Marines being produced right now. Marine speed just finished. Now he pounces on top of those Marines as well. Probably going to be doing a checkmate move on Scan because he can just camp the barracks with the speed links, deny the SCVs building the factory, and even the Vulture does somehow get out of here. The Lings will be able to surround that with the speed advantage and take him down. Scan is knocked out of the round of 32, and Killer has redeemed himself today, saying, "This is crazy."
No way. I cannot believe my eyes. Scan goes down. Dude, he scouted in the wrong direction. He scouted cross map there rather than down towards bottom left. Didn't send 2 SCVs out because it was getting harassed by that drone. Oh, man, that is so painful. So painful.
You jinxed it, Saiyan. You jinxed it by being like, come on, guys, let's get this over with. And like, Killer heard you and was like, hold my beer. I'll make this real quick.
Yeah, he does indeed make it quite quick. Maybe a bit too quick for my taste.
Though, right? Yeah, well, Scan, there's not much he can do. If he goes for 1-1-1 and scouts late, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, this is how Flash used to lose a lot back in the day. Like, he was doing these 1-1-1 tech-out plays, rushing into fast Valkyrie and what have you. But that was countered at players like effort, easily dismantling those builds with like 2-hatch all-in Ling plays. You can even get Borrower upgrade actually and make that work. And we're going to be jumping through to the brackets here as we identify who's getting who. So going through is going to be facing off against Royal in the round of 16. Let's take a look at some of those other brackets as well, saying we've got Snow versus True, then that Royal versus Killer, Action versus Sharp, Hero versus Mong, Best versus JYJ, Barracks versus Ruin, Rush is going on to face against Tyson. Then we've got Bishop playing random up against Saxury. That round of 16 is looking pretty juicy.
Yeah, we're going to get to the meat of this season of the SSL now. The best of 5s are coming up in the round of 16, guys. But that's it for me.
Predictions?
No, thank you.
Can I do it? If you don't, I'll do
Go
it.
ahead.
All right. Snow's beating True. Royal's beating Killer. Action's beating Sharp. Hero's beating Mong. Best is beating JYJ. Barracks is probably beating Ruin. Rush is definitely probably beating Tyson. And Bishop might be getting lucky and getting the better of Saxury with that random pick. That's my prediction, Sam.
I'd like to see Bishop move through. The deeper that random pick goes, the more fun we're going to have. Guys, thank you so much for watching. This round of 32 SCSL is complete. Round of 16 coming up soon. Don't miss it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.